To our June 15th, 2022 Board of County Commissioners business meeting. I want to welcome our packed house full of folks that are here with us in the old county courthouse and everybody that's online. Just going to give you a few bits of information about how we run our meeting. For general public comment, which will be near the beginning of the meeting, I've got a few folks signed up. If there is anybody else here that wishes to make general public comment not related to any items on our business agenda today, which for today's purposes is only the public hearing on the City of Clearfield Incorporation. So anybody who is here for anything other than that will be given an opportunity to provide general public comment. And then when we get to the public hearing, excuse me, we will have a brief presentation and then we will hear from the petitioners. And then we will hear from other municipalities, and then we will open up public comment. And everybody, both in general public comment and later during the regular agenda, public comment will be limited to 3 minutes each. And Sarah over here, for those of you that are in the building with us, will give you some yellow time cards just to cue you and how much time you've got left. As everybody that's here can see, we've got a lot of folks with us, so we will keep it moving. And when we get to that list of folks here for public comment on Clearfield, I will give you all a heads up about who's up next. Also, I want to mention that anybody who is online for general public comment, you will need to raise your hand here soon. We'll be taking that up in a moment if you have any general county business you'd like to speak to us about, and staff will call on you after we have gone through public commenters here. Again, there's a time limit of 3 minutes each. We ask that commenters please state their name and their Douglas County residence for the meeting minutes. And we also reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker that is being rude, vulgar, or inappropriate. And otherwise, we will go ahead and get started. This evening, we've got a proclamation to read, and then we'll move on to general public comment. So the proclamation is for Juneteenth, and let me get it pulled up so I'll read that out loud. And then we have a couple guests with us who, once I'm finished reading that, are welcome to come up to the microphone over here, provide any additional information that they would like the commission and the public to know about, and we'll present you with a copy of that proclamation. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration of the ending of slavery, dating back to June 19th, 1865, the day on which Union soldiers landed in Galveston, Texas, with news that war had ended and that all slaves were now free, even though President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation 2.5 years earlier. And whereas Juneteenth has become a tradition of celebrations that began following the reading of the proclamation by General Gordon Granger in 1865, that has lasted over 150 years, and today is hosted in cities across America, featuring rich traditions, including celebrations in the form of festivals, parades, and oral histories. Also known as Freedom Day, it has continued to be a highly revered event across the country as a time for honoring one another and the memory of all those who endured slavery, and especially those who moved from slavery to freedom. And whereas Juneteenth allows people of all races, nationalities, and religions in cities across the country to join hands to acknowledge a period in our history that has shaped and continues to influence our society today. And whereas Juneteenth celebrates African-American freedom while also encouraging self-development and respect for all cultures. And whereas Lawrence and Douglas County will commemorate Juneteenth with a number of events from June 16th, which is tomorrow, through June 19th on Sunday. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas hereby proclaim and celebrate June 19th, 2022 as Douglas County Juneteenth celebration. Janine and Lois, would you like to come and share more information? Talk about the events, anything you'd like to share?
Good evening. Thank you for having us, and thank you for the proclamation. We have a fun-filled week, half a week of events that we'd like to share with you all. On Thursday, June 16th, we have the Independence in Nation Then and Now League of Women Voters Hot Topics. It will be via Zoom. On Friday, we have the Community Gospel Choir at Victory Bible Church at 1942 Massachusetts Street. On Saturday, we're having a historical parade down Massachusetts Street. We'll start at 8th and Mass and go down to 11th and Massachusetts. And then at noon, we'll go ahead and do the celebration. We want to share a lot of our history. We want people to engage. Everyone is welcome. And we're really excited about it. And then on Sunday, you can take a walking tour at the Maple Grove Cemetery to look at the Civil War heroes and kind of have a map on what was going on. So I want to leave this with you, commissioners, so that you'll know. I hope everyone tries to come and attend. It will be an educational, fun event. You see, I'm representing our t-shirts. We did a t-shirt contest. We had one of our students at Free State was the winner and designed it. And of course, people that sponsored us, they're on the back. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm Lois Sorth Lopes. I'm the secretary of the Juneteenth committee. And I just want to say that this is not just an event for Black people, for African-American families. This is for everybody. And so it's an opportunity to share culture, to get to know each other, and to really have some fun. So I encourage everyone to come. Thanks.
Thank you both for being here. We really appreciate all your efforts and excited to be a part of the parade on Saturday and for all the events that you're hosting for our communities. So thank you so much for all your time and for creating such a robust schedule. And we've got this printed proclamation for you to take with you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you again. Have a good rest of your evening. Okay, well, that was a good way to kick off our meeting. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda, and I'll just see if either commissioner wishes to remove anything for further discussion. Okay, seeing none, I'll ask if anybody here in the courthouse with us would like to pull anything from our consent agenda for further discussion. Seeing no hands, I'll double check that nobody online has indicated that. Okay, we'll close that and I'll ask for a motion.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I move to approve consent agenda items 2.1 through 2.5.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, and with that, we are at our regular, I'm sorry, I almost skipped over general public comment. That's why Robin prints these handy agendas for us. Okay, so general public comment, as I mentioned before, is for items that are not on today's agenda. All comments are should be about county business and directed at the county commission. I have 3 folks signed up. I'll call them first, and then I'll see if anybody else here has general public comment before we move to folks online. Justin, you're first.
My name is Dr. Justin Spees, and I'm running as a Republican for Douglas County Commissioner in District 1, and the seat is currently held by Democrat Patrick Kelly right here. Patrick Kelly is a USD 497 school district administrator, and he makes $122,813 a year, and that is an increase from his 2020 salary of $109,938. The school district continues to be in a massive budget crisis right now that has led to an increase in teacher and staff resignations. At Monday's school board meeting, the board declined to go any higher than their most recent proposed 1.8% teacher salary raise. Additionally, in order to cut costs, the school district plans for 1/3 of elementary classes to be multi-grade next year, which is not going to turn out well. So Patrick, do you feel guilty at all, uncomfortable at all, that you're getting such a bigger slice of the pie than the teachers, and the result is the students, the children of our community will suffer the consequences, and by extension, our community will suffer short-term and long-term consequences? Dr. Shannon Portillo here just announced she's leaving her elected seat on the commission less than 18 months into her 4-year term for a more prestigious job in academia. Shannon doesn't have kids, but sat up on her almighty throne here and dictated to all parents in Douglas County to mask their kids at all times, starting at 2 years old. She played politics with our lives to advance her career in academia. And these liberal Dems are all the same. Again, my name is Dr. Justin Spees. If you want to learn more about me and what I stand for and why I stand for it, then I encourage you to check out the Kansas Constitutional online newsletter founded by journalist Ian Brannon. I stand on the corner of 6th and Castle most afternoons campaigning. When I'm out there, I hear from a lot of people in town, including a local business owner who told me he can barely keep his business open due to the $30,000 in annual property taxes he has to pay. I think about this guy's story a lot. I suspect that the tax money collected by these liberals here on the commission goes to fund ineffective, inefficient, and wasteful local social welfare programs that don't accomplish what they intend. These social welfare programs are ineffective, inefficient, and wasteful because the people who implement these policies, these leaders here and those on the city commission, are only doing it to generate money to support an entire local industry of people consisting of bureaucrats, virtue signalers, SJWs, charlatans, commies, all their friends who run these local social welfare programs. Doing this only makes these politicians feel good at the expense of the taxpayer who can barely keep his business open. Are you okay with that, taxpayer? I suggest you stand up and vote these people out. If times were financially great for everyone at the moment, and everyone had an abundance of money, I still wouldn't support raising property taxes. I would only support lowering it. But I especially think that during these current hard financial times we're all in, that not only is it critical that you should have as much money in your pocket as possible in order to survive, but it's also just common sense. So as our county commissioner, I would never vote an increase. And I would also simultaneously move to cut funding to wasteful social welfare programs that these liberal commies have put in place over the years. I suspect doing this may also improve the homeless crisis we face here today as well. The Douglas County Libertarian Party endorsed Liberal Democrat Shannon Portillo during her 2020 campaign and still do today. So does Liberal Steve Jacob, who's currently running for Douglas County Commissioner as a Liberal candidate. He gives his full support to her on Facebook. Libertarian Steve Jacob supports a Liberal Democrat politician who takes money from hardworking Douglas County residents and gives it to wasteful social justice warrior programs. Libertarian Steve Jacob supports a Liberal Democrat who voted repeatedly to take your parental rights away by mandating that your child as young as 2 years old has to wear a mask. I don't see any difference between Liberal Steve Jacob and Democrat Petra Kelly. And don't forget to vote yes on August 2nd to keep baby murder illegal because, well, it's baby murder and therefore it's wrong. And it don't get any simpler than that.
Sue?
My name is Sue Herrick. I live here in Lawrence. Right into it like this? Okay. My name is Sue Herrick. I live here in Lawrence. Last week I was here with information on something called the Fogan Effect. I'm doing it again. I think this is really important and needs a widened audience as we can find. And we got a bigger one this week than we did last, that's for sure. This is a study done by a German doctor named Zacharias Fogan, F-O-E-G-E-N. I encourage all of you to look this up. The study bears on us particularly because Kansas counties were the source for the data. Here in Kansas, masking mandates were determined county by county. With 105 counties, 81 counties did not implement a mask mandate. The study revealed that in the counties mandating masks, there was a 52% increase in the deaths from COVID. Douglas County, by the orders of these three, was one of the 24 counties falling into the higher mortality. This is called the Fogan Effect after the researcher, Dr. Fogan. The mask causes hypercondensed particles caught by masks to be re-inhaled and introduced deeper into the respiratory tract. The more masks use, the same number of cases, that didn't change, but the deaths increased. Another doctor, whose last name is Cariati, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, made this statement. Once you get infected, if you're wearing a mask, this study suggests that your chance of having a bad outcome of dying from COVID was higher. And that probably had to do with rebreathing these condensed droplets that have a lot of virus in them. Prolonged mask usage having a negative consequence has been largely ignored by researchers until recently. A recent peer-reviewed study in Europe suggests that universal use of masks may have had harmful unintended consequences. We have in this county, when the next round, the next pressure to mask comes, we'll have a break. Dr. Spies will be here taking Patrick Kelly's place. Shannon Portillo will be gone. We'll have a far greater chance of common sense prevailing. Thank you.
Joe?
My name is Joe Herrick. I live here in Lawrence. Last week, we discussed the eligibility requirements of President and Vice President of the United States. We learned that they must be a natural-born citizen, 35 years of age, and been a resident of the United States for 14 years. The definition of natural-born citizen is found in Patel's Law of Nations, Section 21. That reads that to be a natural-born citizen, both parents must be citizens of the United States at the time of birth of the child. The Supreme Court of the United States has cited or quoted Patel's definition of natural-born citizen in 7 different court cases. Constitution Association Incorporated, the plaintiff versus Kamala Harris, defendant, lawsuit was filed on December the 7th, 2020. Plaintiffs challenged the court due to defendant's inability to fulfill eligibility requirements for the office of president or vice president. Plaintiffs stated that this is not a partisan argument. In the original complaint, the fact that Democrat Barack Obama and Republicans Ted Cruz, Bobby Jindal, and Marco Rubio are also ineligible as noted. Federal District Court dismissed the lawsuit on the grounds of jurisdiction because of the constitutional authority belongs to Congress. This is incorrect. Congress does not have the constitutional authority. Article 1, Section 5, each house shall be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, not the president or the vice president. The Constitution does not give Congress the authority to determine the eligibility of the president or vice president. So where does this authority lie? The correct authority is found in Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. What that means is, if the powers are not delegated to Congress by the Constitution of the United States, nor prohibited to the states, then that power is reserved to the state legislatures respectively. They did not do their job. So it is left to us, the people. We, the people, have to hold our elected officials accountable. Thank you.
Those are all the people that we had previously signed up for general public comment. Is there anyone else here that would like to make general public comment? Okay, seeing no hands, we'll see if anybody has raised their hand virtually on Zoom. Nope, okay. We'll close public comment and now we'll move on to our regular agenda and go ahead and begin our public hearing.
Commissioners, pursuant to the receiving of a petition for the incorporation of City of Clearfield, the commissioners set this date as the initial public hearing. Do we want to talk a little bit about how we want to, the logistics and the timelines for tonight before the county councilor begins his opening overview?
Yes, thank you for that reminder, Sarah. This is Commissioner Reed again. So we have a full house here this evening. I mentioned earlier that we will hear from the petitioner for a matter of time. We will hear from surrounding municipalities, which we reached out to. Any of those folks who are here with us will be able to provide comment, and then we will begin the list of general public comment that many of you have signed up for. We will plan to take a break at 8:30 if we are still going by then. At 8:30, we'll take a brief break, and depending on how many folks we have left for general public comment, we'll reconvene after that break and determine whether to continue on this evening or continue to another date, depending on the number of folks, I think. Does that sound all right to fellow commissioners? Any other thoughts they want to add? Okay.
I would just add that if you're online
Oh, yes.
and you want to make a public comment on this item, to please use the raise your hand function now. And please raise your hand now and then keep it raised. And then we will take all public comment in the courthouse first. And then we will move to online public comment.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Okay, with that, we'll turn it over to you, John.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm John Bullock, Douglas County Counselor. This is the third time I've been before you to discuss the process for considering this petition for incorporation. The previous presentations I've made are part of the materials that are on the website. I don't intend to repeat all of that. I'd like to focus on just the highlights regarding tonight. Sarah, how do I move this to the next? Oh, hit the mouse. There we go. Here's my customary disclaimer about the statute. So the purpose of this hearing is for the petitioners and interested members of the public to address the commission. As Commissioner Reed outlined, we'll have some basic procedures that allow the members of the public, municipalities to present. Before we get to that, I will provide a brief overview of the public notice that was provided, an overview of the factors to be considered. And then after the public comment section of the meeting has concluded, whether that's tonight or at a different night, the commission will have the opportunity to discuss the petition, and you may decide to grant it or deny it, or you may schedule additional proceedings for the evaluation of the petition. So I'd like to just provide a brief summary of the notice that was provided regarding tonight's meeting. Today, we uploaded to the packet, and I believe it's available to the public, a certification of public notice prepared by Jamie Hsu, the Douglas County Clerk. I believe he's also attending the meeting through Zoom if there are questions for him. Mr. Hsu's certification describes that the petition was certified to this body on March 29, 2022. That means that it had been completed and signed by the requisite number of signatures. The hearing was set for tonight. Mr. Hsu then caused a notice of the hearing and a copy of the petition to be published in the Lawrence Journal World. He also mailed a notice of the public hearing to the Baldwin City Clerk, the Eudora City Clerk, the city clerks of Edgerton, Gardner, Wellsville, Palmyra Township, as well as the Lawrence Douglas County Planning Commission, the Baldwin City Chamber of Commerce, and the Eudora Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Hsu also sent a copy of the notice of the public hearing and a copy of the petition without the signatures to every landowner of record within the proposed boundaries of the proposed city, which included 328 parcels. Mr. Hsu then posted a copy of the notice of the hearing at approximately 8 different locations within the territory that is proposed to be incorporated. The purpose of all of these efforts was to satisfy the statutory requirements for notification of the hearing. It's my opinion that they have been satisfied. Additionally, materials related to the petition and this meeting have been posted and remain posted on the county's website for some time, and notice was provided of tonight's meeting as well. I would mention to the commissioners that at the time you determine that you would like to act on the petition, whether that's to grant the petition or to deny the petition, you will make a motion to create an order, and that's required by statute, either creating or denying the petition. If you are granting the petition, you must specify the metes and bounds description of the area. At this time, I'm not aware that a metes and bounds description has been prepared. But before you could order the creation of this new city, you would need to have that so that you could place that into your order. That order is supposed to be adopted at the next regular meeting of the board after you decide to approve the incorporation of the city. You would then declare a date for the elections to be held in that city, and that would be published prior to the election. If instead you decide to deny the petition, you would adopt an order so stating. The standard of review that would be applied in a judicial review of this decision is that it cannot be arbitrary, unlawful, or capricious, meaning that your decision should not be based on a whim or a prejudice, but rather based upon some evidence that you've heard. It's up to you to determine what evidence to believe and what credibility to assign to it, but your decision should be based upon some evidence. It would be helpful for any further review of your decision, if one should occur, that you would state the basis for your decision on the record, or if you prefer, you may direct staff to prepare formal findings and conclusions for your approval, although that is not required. We have provided these factors to the commission and the public before. I don't intend to read all of them for you, but please bear in mind that each of these factors is one you may consider, as well as other factors that may be pertinent to your determination as in your judgment that you find would be relevant. These factors do not have any weighting. In other words, the third factor is not more important than the fifth factor or the 10th factor. Each one can be considered. And ultimately, you will decide whether you believe the petition should be granted or not granted based on these factors and the evidence that you've heard during the proceeding, and then any subsequent continued proceedings if those do occur. The final point that I'd like to make before entertaining any questions is that your decision to approve this city must be unanimous. In the absence of a unanimous decision, the petition will be denied. If you decide to seek further guidance from the county councilor regarding your decision, the motion, et cetera, I will be here and can be available at the end of the public hearing section as well to provide further guidance. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, John. This is Commissioner Reed. I just want to be clear. The hearing cannot come to a close until we have received all public comment from people that want to make comment. Is that accurate?
The statute requires that all persons who own property within the proposed territory must be given an opportunity to be heard and to present documentary materials and briefs. You're not required to take comment from every single member of the public outside of that territory, but I believe the commission has indicated that it will. Therefore, without attempting to determine who is within and without the territory, it appears most efficient to allow all members of the public who wish to speak to do so, unless you decide you would like to limit at some point commentary to people who do reside or own property within the territory.
That clarification. Any questions from other commissioners of John? Okay, well, thank you for that overview. We appreciate you being here again, John. And with that, Emily, we will start with the petitioner's presentation. So the petitioner, I believe, is here. There she is, can come forward. We would like to keep this presentation to 20 minutes or less. Okay.
Okay, so I don't see my window to share. I don't see the option of my desktop. Let's see. I hit screen share. Basic, advanced, don't see the desktop. Oh, hold on just a second. Yep, hold on just a second. This one. Yeah. That works. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Thank you tonight, commissioners, for allowing us to come forth and present our presentation for the petition of for incorporation for the city of Clearfield. I also want to thank Mr. Bullock, and also Sarah and the rest of the staff. I know that this has been a lot of work. I do think it's been a really great experience for both the county and the community as a whole. And this isn't something that happens very often. And we're all learning a lot along the way. So I think that in and of itself is a little silver lining. So to get started, I'm not going to go through the petition specifics because everybody at this point has probably already read through them. So I'm going to advance forward to the next slide. Okay, so this is the petition part. Okay, so over the last several years, our unincorporated community, or a lot of us anyways, in our unincorporated community have been increasingly concerned about being able to protect and preserve our quality of life due to a lot of the industrial developments that are happening all around us. And so I want to make it clear that yes, absolutely, we're concerned about the next era utility scale solar project because it can take up to 2,000 acres on the Johnson County side and 1,000 max on the Douglas County side. It straddles County Line Road. That's our whole community pretty much. So yeah, we're concerned about that, but it's not just that. There's other industrial development that has been transpiring for quite a while now, and that includes the intermodal, Warren Buffett's project, and then North Point's KC Logistics Park that is between Gardner and Edgerton. Those massive warehouses continue to expand, and just like what is we feel maybe happening here in our communities happening already in Miami County. So there's that. Then on the DeSoto side, we do have a responsible solar development with Savion, which is Shell now. They purchased Savion. It's a utility scale solar development that I believe is going in on that brownfield site, which is responsible. But in addition to that, we also have the Kansas Senate's Apex Senate bill that they approved earlier in the year, which allowed them to incentivize and compete with Oklahoma to bring in a secretive $4 billion project that the senators and the public didn't have a chance to even know anything about. But they wanted to vie for that business to bring in that out-of-state development. And it ends up, it's a Panasonic battery manufacturing plant. And our gut instincts tell us what the ideal place to have that be will be just south of DeSoto, right again in our neck of the woods. And so it just continues to invite more and more and more industrial conditional use permit. And in the case of land sales, total rezoning to industrial. So this is why we're concerned. So wouldn't anyone be concerned, right? So with that being said, Douglas County has done a really wonderful job with their ad hoc committee for the utility scale solar regulations that they developed. But then in addition to the comprehensive land use plan concerns that we have, we just want to adhere to those. We want those protected because when we purchased homes, when we built businesses, we base that on the comprehensive plan for Douglas County, and our area is defined for agricultural land use. And so when projects come in under the radar and secure thousands and thousands of acres of land, whether it's NextEra's project or whether it's an industrial warehouse project or a secretive Senate bill, $4 billion project, manufacturing, we don't know about it. How are we supposed to make good investment decisions with our money? It's hard to make a living these days, and for it just to be the rug pulled out from under us and everything we've worked for to be threatened by industrial. This is why we are wanting to incorporate. So Douglas County operates with a joint City of Lawrence / County Planning Commission Zoning Board, I believe, right? And that's been that way with Resolution 69.8 Ordinance number 3951 since 1969. That's 53 years ago, and nothing's changed with that. And we realize Lawrence is the population center of Douglas County. So a lot of stuff is going on in Lawrence. It's an important city. But with that being said, we're also important in Southeast Douglas County. It's really important to us to be able to be self-reliant and make decisions that are really good for the community, the people that live in our little area, right? So the reason for this petition is to give us an opportunity to create a city where we will have more say and more ability to, as a community, with equal representation from farmers and absentee landowners and residents on large parcel homesteads and agribusiness owners, et cetera. 5 council members and a mayor that really represent well our area to make good decisions about what we want long-term for our quality of life and preserving our rural roots and our values. And with that being said, you know, we support a lot of what the county has put in place. We absolutely love, you know, the food council and all of the thought that's being put into, you know, helping people with mental illness and a lot of these new projects and the whole history preservation that's being celebrated this month, I believe. These kinds of things we wholeheartedly embrace and want to work and continue to work with the county on. We also want to state that we support agrivoltaic projects, and that's something that the county feels is important with regards to solar projects. And we want to work closely with the county, the K-State Extension, KU, on responsibly sited and sized agrivoltaic projects, especially those that are research-based, because that's it's in its infancy. And so it's important before you are hasty and you do too much that you understand the long-term implications of these projects and move forward responsibly. But we also like the idea of partnering with local solar companies. So for example, Good Energy, and Mike Schumann is actually a resident in the community and very knowledgeable, and they're a great resource for accomplishing solar projects with local businesses. Also, we'd like US manufactured products. So things like that. The community is all about that. And we would love to embrace projects that take that into account and also promote trying to keep the energy as local as possible versus going 100% to the grid. So we went through, you know, annexations in this presentation. You can click and read more on the mother of all subsidies. That's that Senate Bill 347, the Panasonic manufacturing plant. So let's skip forward. And is anybody keeping time on me? What am I at, Sarah, if you don't mind? Okay, thank you. So let's dive into the proposed boundary. Yeah, it's big. It's a big footprint, and that was purposeful because we wanted to try to bring in as many of our community members to preserve our rural character and our agriculture and stuff. With that being said, totally understand not everybody is supportive and there's a lot of opposition, I believe, and that we respect, and that's totally fine. And for those that don't know, if and when a new city is incorporated, for those that are truly opposed to it, that don't want to be a part of the city, you can request to be annexed out once the city is approved. So you do not run the risk of being forced to be in the city of Clearfield. So please keep that in mind. But, you know, regardless, if this footprint shrinks, commissioners, we would really love for you to be thoughtful enough to allow us to continue forward if there's still, 250 plus inhabitants, registered voters that can sustain and make up this city, not to just toss it out because of opposition, because they can annex themselves out, still leaving us with an opportunity to do something really spectacular with a new city of Clearfield. The next thing is, you ask how is such a large footprint going to sustain itself? And It's really about creating new sales tax revenue based on the assets of what we have in this footprint, which is agritourism. A lot of us are agribusiness owners. There's equine out here, and some of our citizens will speak to that, hopefully. There are cattle, grass-fed livestock operations. There's a lot of farm to fork opportunities. We want to get into sharing the wonderful things about this area, this Clearfield area, with surrounding cities, with, you know, visitors to the state. There's a real opportunity for us to be this open space, green space, designated as the kind of the backyard of Douglas County and Lawrence, you know, allow us to take what we know how to do and market it in the skills and talents that we all possess as a community and do something really special, because that can happen and it will happen if we're allowed to incorporate. We also, it's very important to us to partner with surrounding cities. I realize that we're closer than 5 miles, but you know, hopefully that's not that huge of a deal for the cities, because Edgerton, you know, they're actually sort of embracing by their letter, Don Roberts, you know, that they welcome the opportunity to partner with a new city of Clearfield. But it's important to communicate with the cities and to make sure that we're not going to do anything that would infringe on their future growth, which I really don't believe that we will, because we don't have the desire to expand this large footprint. It's very counterintuitive. It's like very counterintuitive, but that's the idea, is to grow our services and products, especially farm related agribusiness, agritourism services and products. And that is what our city's about. We want to support the other cities around us, because you know, we will not be big on hotels and motels and restaurants and places to spend the night. So we drive that revenue and that traffic for visitors that come to annual events or to workshops or to seminars in the city of Clearfield, to the sister cities, and drive commerce to them as well. Moving forward with property valuation. So I've got that there, you know, with our group, approximately 191 dwellings. We originally in our petition estimated a population of 415, but then we wanted to confirm that. So we bought a US Census, and that came back with 1,221 inhabitants. There's no way, that's too high. So I hope that we can do some study sessions and really kind of fine tune and understand the exact numbers. And I would guess, you know, we're more in the population of human souls between 500 and 600 people. Total assessed value, which is what we'll get to when determining mill levy and property taxes, is what we came up with, which is close to the county appraiser's number, is $6,968,335. Land valuation, which are those parcels that do not have dwellings, total assessed value $683,343. I do not have the estimated tangible property built into this, but the county appraiser had it about 100,000, which isn't going to really move the mill levy rate much. Government services, let's just quickly go through that, because this is where, you know, people are like, we got all this propaganda that's been mailed out by Halo. And it's like taxes are going to be crazy, and you're going to have government that's just going to try and, you know, squash your property rights. It could be further from the truth, guys. So taxes, because we want to retain our rural quality of life, we want to remain a rural people. That means we don't want public works. We don't want a school district. We don't want our own fire department. We don't desire to have our own police department and patrol cars. We don't desire to have what you would typically think of with a city for public works. So what does that mean? What does that equate to? That means basically we're already paying right now in our property taxes for the services that we want to continue to have. And we don't really want to change that. The county's doing a really great job. Palmyra Township, Eudora Township, Fire District 1, Fire District 2. We do have two different USD school mill levies. We have Baldwin, we have Franklin County, and probably a little bit of Eudora too. But everybody's property taxes, what you're paying now, you're paying for the services that you're getting, and that includes road maintenance. So we're already paying for that. So there's not going to be more taxes. The only thing that will need a mill levy for the city of Clearfield are the salaries of the mayor and the council members, and you know, some administrative things, insurance, all these sorts of things we'll get to in a minute. But you know, water, we continue to be with Rural Water 4, District 4. Spoke with Clifford, who's the district administrator. He's like, rates won't change just because you're changing from unincorporated to a city. Nothing's going to change with your rates. If something did change, it would be customer wide. It would be because something happens and they got to raise everybody's rates. City sewer, we're all on septic tank. We don't want to change that. We like our septic tanks. Law enforcement, I spoke with Sheriff Jay Armister, and he's a really nice guy. He explained to me how the sheriff will continue to respond to 911 calls. If we did want to contract for additional services, we could. And we could have the deputies come out a couple days a week, certain times of the day, patrol our area. That would be extra. He's like, that doesn't happen very often, that people want that, but it's an option. So law enforcement would continue to be paid through our Douglas County tax. Fire and emergency response, that's a line item for a tax entity on your property tax. You'll see it. You're either Fire District 1 or 2. Stays the same. Road maintenance, right now, you either pay Palmyra Township or Eudora Township, and they do a really good job. I think, staying status quo with that. Most people are in agreement that's probably a good idea. So again, you're already paying for that. School districts, you're already paying for it. And then city government, this city of ours, should it be approved, would be a third-class city, mayor, 5 city council members. And it would be an election process that the county would handle and pay for. Jamie Shue, that's what he does, the county clerk. So, and how am I doing on time? Okay, so let's just cut quick to Jeremy Lefevre's propaganda. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that this is not fact. It's like spun to get you to react, hair on fire, and be concerned. And I want to extinguish those concerns tonight with the things that I've tried to explain. Taxes, if they go up on a $300,000 home based on the mill levy calculations that we've diligently worked hard to estimate, which again, commissioners, we can fine tune. A $300,000 home, you'd be looking at like $65 a year increase to cover the salaries of the mayor and the city council members, which would be, we want to keep it modest, be maybe 45,000 a year combined for all of them. It has lawyer and other HR payroll expenses in there, which we put 85,000 in there. But what I'm trying to say is this is propaganda, guys. Don't be fooled. Okay, don't be fooled. This is put out by Heartland Farm, which is State Line Strategies, same guy, left and right, Jeremy Lefevre. I'm saying your name correctly. And NextAir Energy is one of Jeremy's clients, and we know that because of our meeting that we had with him back in 2021. So I'm out of time on my 20 minutes, but this will be on the website so all of you can take more time to read through the finer details. And again, thank you to the whole community. How cool is it that I don't ever think that I've remembered having this happen where all of us have gotten together and had dialogue. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, we'll go ahead and, Carrie, actually, I'm sorry, you come back up here because we'll go ahead and ask you some questions at this time. Sorry, I didn't give you that warning before. I'll go ahead and open it up to other commissioners with any questions that they have.
Sure. I just want to start with a couple of clarifying questions for our county council, please. There was a bit of a discussion that Carrie presented about folks being able to annex out if a city is approved. And I just want to make sure that we're really clear about how the boundaries of a city would be set if it were to be incorporated, and kind of who would be in and who would be out, and if that would be optional.
This is John Bullock, County Councilor. Pursuant to the statute, if and when the commission incorporates the city, that you would establish the metes and bounds of the new city. The statute states that the inhabitants within such bounds and such further territory as from time to time may be lawfully added thereto shall be a body politic and corporate by that name. So the starting baseline is that everybody within the metes and bounds is included. I, being a county lawyer, not a city lawyer, I wasn't familiar with any legal provisions that would allow a person once in a city to leave the city. I was doing a little quick research while Ms. Brandon was finishing up her comments and came across a statute that may pertain to being able to submit a petition to the city seeking to be excluded from an annexation. But this was a 3-minute or 2-minute quick look. And so I don't want to give you an opinion tonight about who may exclude themselves from the proposed city. I know we have some other lawyers here, and if there's someone that has a statutory citation or some case law on that, I'd be happy to look at it. I apologize, I don't have a seat of the pants answer for you, Commissioner, on that issue.
No, but I do think it's important to note that the statute that would incorporate a city is saying that we would be setting the boundaries of a city, and everything included in those boundaries would initially be a part of that. And I think that's just important for folks to hear. This wouldn't be a property owner by property owner decision. It would be a decision of boundaries.
Yes, and I would like to clarify that annexation is something completely different. An existing city might follow statutory procedures to annex adjacent territory. There's a lot of rules and procedures for that. And if the statute I quickly glanced at pertains to the subject of annexation, then it's not really relevant to this. There's nothing in the statute that pertains to the incorporation of a city by petition that says anything about people being able to exclude themselves from the incorporation. So that would have to come from somewhere else in the statute. If it's there, I just don't know it at the moment.
Thank you. We heard a lot about some of the revenue coming from sales tax revenue, from agritourism and other aspects of things that are going on. Do you have clear estimates of what that revenue would generate for the city of Clearfield?
Oh, but if we can be invited to a study session, I will certainly bring that.
My other question really has to do with city services. So one of the first things that we're asked to consider is population density. And that's largely because cities are responsible for providing infrastructure and services to everyone who lives within the incorporated areas of a city. And those are things like making sure that they have water, sewer systems, all of the public work aspects that kind of went through and said, these are all the things that cities provide that you don't want. How are we supposed to reconcile that the statute is asking us to consider, is there this density to provide services at an aggregated level? And you're asking us to approve a city that doesn't want to provide services.
Correct. There is nothing in state statutes that we have come across or aware of that prevents a city from deciding that they want to remain with septic tanks and rural water District 4. There is nothing that says a city must create public works in the statutes. And that is what we would like to do. We would like to maintain the rural character. We don't have a desire to become urbanized. Like I said, we want to protect and preserve the area for agricultural, agribusiness, outdoor, fresh air, farm to fork experiences, annual events, gravel runs, keep the gravel roads, keep the septic tanks, keep the rural wells, all of those things we hold dear. And Kansas state statute for incorporation of cities does not say that you have to create public works for your citizens. It does not say that. Yeah.
It does say we have to consider density.
And we don't have a lot of density, so it kind of works for the concept of the city that we want to incorporate. If there is more density, that's gonna happen long after this generation is gone. And perhaps those city councilmen, we got to get the revenue coming in first, Commissioner Portillo. And then decisions about infrastructure and public works can be made. But right now, what we're desiring is to incorporate a city that preserves and protects us exactly as we exist currently, and celebrating that.
This is Commissioner Reed, and Carrie, I just want to correct your pronunciation. It's Commissioner Portillo.
Portillo.
And I want to piggyback off of her last question and ask you, how do you envision or expect that the intent with which you are hoping to incorporate a city that does not include public works, that does not include municipal services, how do you expect or to guarantee that that will remain true in future years and generations for the number of people within this 18.2 square mile area?
So, just like the county has a comprehensive plan, the city would have a charter, and we would also have a plan, a long-term plan, and that would be spelled out in the plan. That's important to this city, is we don't want to be like Lawrence. We want to be city of Clearfield, rural roots, rural values, and hold on to those. That experience, which is missing in a lot of places anymore, the ability to drive out and go from pavement to gravel road, and something happens to you. And when you get off of the highway and you start down a gravel road, you change. It's just like, this is what we want to preserve and protect. We don't want to be full of commercial, industrial subdivisions. We want to retain and maintain the rural character and the rural values. I hope that answers your question.
Well, Plan 2040 does encourage us to maintain and retain agriculture throughout the unincorporated areas of Douglas County. So it's what I'm failing to see is how that isn't already articulated in our long-term planning for rural Douglas County. So rural Douglas County can maintain being rural. Having a city typically means that you have city services.
It can mean that, yes. But the county does not protect the citizens in our area to the degree that we would like to be able to make decisions about what happens to our area. We would like a little more control over industrial conditional use permits. I'm not saying that we wouldn't, do them, but siting and scale, making sure that rural quality and the rural character is not sacrificed for the sake of becoming urbanized. We don't want to become urbanized. That's the point. We want to maintain our current services like they are. And really, and I may be wrong, so, but I don't think so. We've read the statutes a lot, and we purposefully did not hire an attorney because we didn't want to come in here with guns ablazing, you know? That's not what this is about for us. I mean, we're just a community that wants to create, and maybe we call ourselves a village. I mean, can we do that? Do we have to use the word city? Because often the word city, yes, everybody thinks, oh, here we go. Shopping malls, strip centers, restaurant chains, fast food. No, that's not what we want. We want to preserve a special place, an open space, a green space that people can enjoy and that we can continue to enjoy. Did that answer your question?
Carrie, this is Commissioner Reed again. You've spoken a lot about what we, the community, wants. And you're the petitioner whom we've heard from in previous meetings, who is named on these documents. There are 59 other signatures or 58 other signatures besides yours on the original petition. And by my count, that represents 31 unique addresses within the range. So I guess my question is twofold. One is, can you speak a little bit about who the we is and who it is in the community, or what the origin of the community that you speak of is with this idea of creating a city that isn't exactly like a city as most people think of the word, as you just pointed out. So I'm curious to hear a bit more about that. And then also help us understand, when you decided to prepare this petition and submit it back in the spring, how many folks did you talk with? How much community outreach or conversing with your neighbors, with the people that are included in that? More than just your neighbors, arguably, because it is such a large square mile area. Can you speak to that more? And who
Well, let
is
me
the we?
take your first part. So I am the petitioner with the name on the petition, yes. But this is the community of electors, so those over 50 signatures required to actually submit a valid petition for incorporation. Those people are hopefully sitting out here. I don't know if you guys want to raise your hands. How many of our petitioners are here tonight? But those individuals, you know, are like sponsoring the petition along with me, my name on there. Now, how do we all come to decide that we wanted to petition to incorporate a city? It's been a long time. It's been, as you know, it's been a very long year and a half. I mean, the fact, you know, NextEra's solar project, when they started doing the secretive hold for long-term ground lease agreements back in 2018, we didn't know about that. And when we started to hear about it 4 years later, that's when the community really started to get to know each other. And my neighbor drove up the road and said, "Did you know about this?" And we're like, "Oh, well, we're not against solar. That's fine." They're like, she's like, "But no, did you know about this?" And the more that the community began to learn about it, and then the Lawrence Journal World newspaper came out with the footprint of the project, this is what started to bring people together. And that's kind of, you know, thank you, NextEra, because that's a silver lining, actually. It's like a situation where we all go about our daily lives and we never get to know our neighbors. And it's really extra hard to get to know your neighbors in rural areas because, you know, your driveways are quarter-mile long sometimes, and people got shotguns, and you know, you just don't want to just go up to the front door and say, "Hey," and introduce yourself. But this situation really brought people together, and we got to know each other, and we started to really understand the value of what we hold dear out here. And so as time has progressed and regulations have been solidified for utility scale solar, limited scale solar, and small on both sides of County Line Road, we've come to realize our vulnerability. And On the Johnson County side, recently, the Board of County Commissioners over there threw out the request of Gardner for 2-mile buffer and Edgerton for a 3-mile buffer, and they went with 1.5 mile and a 2,000 acre project max. I mean, the people on the Johnson County side are just scrambling to try to figure out how to preserve their quality of life too along County Line Road. So this community is very tight now as a result. And that is what resulted in our desire to become a city, is to continue to be a tight community, celebrate the Clearfield history, which is, you know, the little Clearfield church and the schoolhouse was in the early 1800s. Germans came over, so a lot of German history. But we want to preserve it. And that is how it started. And then your second part of your question, what was it? Can you remind me?
Yeah, it was a little lengthy, sorry. Can you just talk to me about how, so that tight-knit community that you just described,
Mhm.
what kind of outreach or additional
Yeah.
talking with residents in the area?
Okay, so, and I'm just going to be transparent about this because this is exactly why it happened so quickly. We have proposals coming in to the counties for projects. And so the community of our Clearfield area worked as fast as we could to petition and get elector signatures. We did not wait. The second we had 50, I took it up and we submitted it to Jamie Shu. And, you know, at that point, Jamie was transparent too. And he's like, we've never done this before. We don't know how to do this. So I'm like, well, Miami County has, with the city of Golden, is a good resource, you know, because I had spoken and had listened to all of their meetings, and Jennifer Williams, who's the petitioner on that side. So Jamie called over there and he got a lot of help and information from that side. But it happened fast. And so to those of you, and there's a lot of people that are upset with the fact that further from the elector area, you know, they didn't learn about it fast enough. And I totally understand that. And I respect that. And I apologize for people who feel like something underhanded is happening here, but that is so far from the truth. That is not our intention. We included the larger footprint because we felt people needed a time to understand what's going on with industrial in and around north, east, not so much west yet because the city of Lawrence is there, but then also south. And so, you know, I explained to people too that this is a process, this hearing. You three could deny it right here tonight. Hopefully you won't. You'll do some study sessions. We can get you more information like you asked about, Shannon, about sales tax revenue, things like that around the different types of commerce that we want to create in the city of Clearfield. But the large footprint was purposeful because we wanted to give the community an opportunity to be a part of it. And absolutely, we understand those that don't want to be. You know, that's important. Property rights, if you don't feel like a city or a village, if we could call it that, governed by your community versus, you know, the county's regulations is a good thing, then absolutely. You can annex out if the city is approved. It has to happen after the city is approved. Then it's a petition to annex out, and then you become unincorporated again. That's the way we've understand the statutes. Did that answer?
Yep, thank you for explaining some of the organs. Commissioner Kelly, you have some questions?
Hi, Mr. Commissioner Kelly, a lot of what you talked about tonight is about land use and planning and some disagreements you have or with the decisions made at a county level about land use and planning. So I want to ask you, since you're thinking of taking on the responsibilities of land use and planning and building within the city of Clearfield, what your plan is for applying for building codes, for the planning department, for looking at things, such as floodplain and those types of things. How are those working into your plan for the city of Clearfield?
Well, the county has done a really good job of that already. And to be clear, we're not in disagreement with county regulations. We just want a little bit more say, and we want the ability to be more self-reliant so that we can take care of things quicker for ourselves because you guys have a broad area that you have to provide services for, and we
So
understand.
that's specifically my question.
Mhm.
Take care of yourselves.
Mhm.
How are you going to take care of yourselves from a building codes and planning perspective for the city of Clearfield?
Well, the county has building codes, right? And we can continue to follow exactly what the county's building and inspection codes are.
Who will
And
enforce
if-
those
So,
codes?
so part of incorporating a city is codification. And so if we are approved, we need a municipality attorney, which of course we don't have here tonight for the hearing purposefully, because that's, but codification has to happen. What we envision is looking to other cities at their codes, taking what is great and applicable to what we're doing, if it makes sense, and integrating that maybe into our own codes, taking what the county is already doing and continuing with that. You're talking about inspectors, is that what you mean?
Or even beyond that. So let's say someone disagrees with the codes that you have taken from the county or from other cities and adopted as your own.
Mhm.
Someone disagrees with that and wants to go to court. What's your
Mhm.
plan for that?
Well, municipality court, again, we will not have a court, so we would probably come to the county courthouse for hearing, no? Is that wrong?
You're a city, you'd have to be able to do code enforcement as a city
Well,
and
that's,
not run it through the county department or if you were sued, you could,
yeah, the
please correct me if I'm wrong,
courthouse.
still be sued in district court, but that wouldn't be typical enforcement.
Enforcement, we've got a council member of 4 to 5 people, right? So, and that would be covered by the mill levy. So if we have to have staff, and if we have to have the appraiser, if we have to have an inspector and things like that, that would be, covered by the mill levy. And those would be things, I'm not confident that we would need those particular job roles. I do think we need a clerk for administrative purposes, but what we would like to do is 1099 the majority of, staff type things like HR and payroll and accounting and legal. But if we do have to have a full-time inspector, I guess that, we could just build that in and the mill levy would cover it. Is that answering your question?
Well, I don't think it
No?
matters whether it's a contract 1099 employee or if it's an employee of the incorporated city. There's still an expense that is not currently covered by the mill rate. So your mill rate would go up.
We don't
because you
have-
would have to, you would establish a
Mhm.
mill rate and it would be higher than what residents are currently paying because you would have staff that you don't currently have, because
Right.
you can't use county staff,
Mhm.
but the county staff would still exist. So you'd still pay everyone who lives in Eudora, Baldwin, Lawrence, they still pay their county property tax and mill rate to the city. So your city would be in addition.
Right, and I didn't get a chance to share the mill levy calculation, but it's coming in, and this is where I would really love to be invited to a study session and have more time. And I know that the opposition, Sloan, Mr. Sloan, is that his last name? He had also requested the opportunity to have more time to talk about the details, because there's a lot of them. It's really hard to try to cover that in 20 minutes or even 30 minutes or even this entire evening. But the mill levy, yes. We're looking at, based on our calculations, that it's because we do not want public works, city funded public works, that it would be between 0.002 and 0.003, which is very low. So like I said, on a $300,000 home with an assessed appraised assessed value of 35,000, for example, that would come in roughly at about $65 more per year. And then 2 installments divided by 2, as you can pay 2 installments if you want to. So for those of us in the Clearfield area, we would pay 10 times that to have the opportunity to become a city of people that really care about each other and want to. I didn't hear what you said.
We-
Yeah. Please don't speak over folks who are.
No,
who will have the
I'm not
opportunity for public comment.
speaking for myself. I'm speaking on the calculated example.
Ms. Brandon, you
Yeah.
need to address your comments to the
Okay.
county commission only.
Okay. So that was based on the example calculation, which is in the printout that I gave Sarah to give to you. So you can paginate through to it. I could share it, but the presentation's over. So, right?
Other questions?
Yeah, so in listening to your presentation, it seems to me like the objection with remaining as an unincorporated area is ideological. Meaning the policies that have been approved by the Douglas County Commission, and in fact, many of the policies that you're citing tonight were actually approved by the Johnson County Commission, you're in disagreement with. Our representative form of government gives you an avenue for expressing the challenges that you have or the disagreements that you have with decisions that are made by elected leaders. What I'm interested in hearing from you is, based on your ideological idea that if I disagree with those who are elected in my community to represent me, that I can file for separation from that entity. What would it mean? Why do we not see cities all over Kansas where people disagree often? We have these meetings every week in every county and 105 counties across Kansas. Why do we not see this happening again and again as people disagree? Well, if I disagree with the way the decisions that have been made, I'm going to create a new city to do what I want to do. Or even further, I disagree with a lot of the things that happen at the Kansas State Legislature. How come we are not choosing not to stay in the state of Kansas? I'm just interested in your thought process. I understand, I heard what you said, that this is a different idea, and I just want to hear more fleshed out how we separate from a county or create a new city within a county based on a disagreement on certain decisions that have been made by elected representatives.
So I think, well, to answer your first part where you're like, why don't we see this all the time? Well, the answer to that is it's a whole heck of a lot of work to petition to incorporate a city. It is not for the faint of heart. I mean, this state statute, it's not rocket science. It spells it out pretty simply and matter of factly. But the time it takes, the organization effort it takes, the desire of people to want to invest their time and work together to put it forth is enormous. It's enormous. And that's why you don't see, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would love to consider banding together and forming a city. But it's isolated that it happens. It doesn't happen. I mean, it hasn't happened in Kansas for very, very, very long time. So that's the answer to that particular question. And then in terms of disagreeing with, we understand that at the county level, that the regulations that are, determined have to apply to a really broad demographic. I mean, broad county, surface area. And the purpose of a city is to take what the county has already implemented with its own regulations and not to necessarily disagree, because we're not really disagreeing. We just want to work closer with the county to on, like, for example, when we're talking about solar, agrivoltaics is very desirable, especially with working to engage with local solar companies and to have more input on that as a city to bring jobs, keep revenue local, keep energy local. I mean, energy democracy is a term that I don't know if many people have heard, but it's the concept of developing community solar, which limited scale in the regulations spells out community solar as 20 acres, right, or less. And it serves the community, keeps the energy here. You can still tap into or send it to the grid with net metering. That's still going to be allowed, but you know, we're losing rights. And what we're trying to do is give our area more say in the finer details. It's not to say that we disagree with all of the regulations that Douglas County puts forth. In fact, Douglas County doesn't even have a city buffer like Johnson County has 1.5 miles. I don't know how that got past the public, but it did. We're all like, how do we not catch that? But it's just appropriate distance from cities is what the verbiage is in the Douglas County regulations. So, you know, that alone causes concern for citizens. So we just want more of a voice. When you're a city, you're taken more seriously and you have the opportunity, I think, to pull a little bit more weight with the, you know, at the county level. And there's also much more opportunity for applying for funding from the federal, state, and even grant level. I mean, all these things that you heard earlier in your study session for, you know, you giving funds for the grant, all these, how many, 80 some proposals that came forth, you know, grant funding is, there's a lot of it out there. You have to have a grant writer, but we do. Our community is just chock full of skills and talent. I have no doubt we could do something remarkable if given the chance. And for those that, you know, are opposed, we get it. And we don't want to force anything on anyone, but there are a solid group of citizens that should surpass the 250 registered voter inhabitants that would like the opportunity to create and incorporate a city of its own, Clearfield.
Any further questions from commissioners at this time? Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Okay, thanks.
You can have a seat. Sarah, I'm going to turn to you. Do you happen to know all of the municipalities that are represented here? I see Barack from Eudora, but I'm not sure I can spot
And
other
then
folks.
I believe a representative from Baldwin City is here as well. Glenn, are you, if you're here? I thought he had
I was
told me.
looking for familiar faces, but
I was told he was attending, but maybe he
Okay.
didn't make it
well, Barack, I
yeah.
see you, so
online, but we
so
can
you're
have.
up. And is 3 minutes still sufficient for you?
I think I had told them 5.
5 minutes for municipalities.
Yes, good evening,
that'd be great.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Barack Matute, City Manager.
Right.
We did submit our written testimony. I believe you have that, so I'll probably keep my comments brief. The City Commission did review what we received from the county clerk, and all the materials that we received is what we reviewed to submit our written testimony. Although the city had not had sufficient time to review and assess all the implications of the potential implications of the proposed new city on Eudora, in-depth and preliminary assessment yield a lot of questions and concerns. Some of them that we've highlighted in our written testimony include currently we have an urban growth boundary that we worked with the Board of County Commissions to approve. And at the time of discussion, the county commission has expressed the desire to maintain the rural character of the unincorporated areas of the county and the need to push developments and residential density towards incorporated cities. So we ended up shrinking what we had proposed as our UGA to what we have currently. The incorporation of the city of Clearfield will potentially allow for the type of development that county commissioners wanted to deter. If the petition is granted, it becomes imminent. The city commissioner of Eudora would immediately withdraw our UGA and request the Board of County Commissioners to expedite its recognition and designation, and the new boundary will probably ensure the integrity of the city and the growth. The city's growth and future development is protected. Two, with the incorporation of the city of Clearfield, the city of Eudora's growth and development partner will be impacted. In 2020, the city of Eudora did approve a comprehensive plan, and within the comprehensive plan, we did not account for nor discuss the incorporation of a new city. Most of our growth of our community will occur south of K10. If the city of Clearfield incorporates, the orderly growth pattern that we had projected will be disrupted, as individual developers could prefer to develop within a new city where there would be no existing planning and zoning regulation, including building codes. How would this be mitigated by the new city? Would they be able to establish the governance structures for such oversight for the execution of this function of government? If the coordination is needed for planning and zoning purposes, as is the case now that we coordinate with Douglas County, how would this be addressed if professional staff are currently non-existent because there's some planning and zoning issues that could not wait? The issue outlined by the petitioners as reasons for incorporation could be addressed by the existing local government units. For instance, and we didn't know if these alternatives have been explored. For instance, we know the county commissioners have discussed about expanding the composition or the number of county commissioners from 3 to 5. And one of the issues that the petitioners had said as reason for needing to incorporation was representation, with hopefully, and I think they, I can be corrected if I'm wrong, there could be a ballot initiative to increase the number. If 5 is not an accurate number or the number that they deem fit, could there be some discussion to see if there could be 7 commissioners to address the issue of representation from their perspective? Also, if the Board of County Commissioner grants this petition as presented, because we just feel the reasons and the threshold are so low, precedent will be set. Another petition could be submitted, resulting in unreasonable multiplicity of independent municipalities within Douglas County. What happens then, and what are some of those issues that would come up as a result of that? Last but not least, the incorporation of the city of Clearfield will potentially, or has the potential to severely fiscally impact the residents of Eudora. There is a countywide sales tax that is integral to the city of Eudora's budget. A new city in Douglas County was brought in a reduction to the city's share of the countywide sales tax. If this happens, the city of Eudora will be looking at either reduction of service or raising property taxes to be able to cover that gap in our budget. Also, as I said, we haven't done an in-depth assessment of all the potential impacts of what the incorporation would mean for the city of Eudora. And should this petition be approved as presented, the city will exercise, if it believes that it's been agreed by the county commission decision to grant this petition as presented, the city of Eudora will exercise its right to appeal the decision to the district court.
Thank you, Barack. Do commissioners have any questions for Barack? Okay, thank you so much for your time. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
submitting your comments. Is there anybody here that is a city official from Baldwin City or Edgerton or Wellsville? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close out that section of hearing from municipalities. And with that, we'll move on to public comment. I know that our crowd has grown a little bit bigger since we began our meeting, so I'll just give a couple brief reminders. We do have a sign-up sheet. Currently, I have 28 folks signed up. Some more of you may not have gotten your name on this sign-up sheet. When we get through that 28, I'll make an invitation for further comment depending on the time. Oh, I see that there's another list. So if you have, thank you, Sarah. There's a list that you can sign up for if you haven't already. I'm going to go ahead and call folks. I'm going to call up Alan Anderson as our first person signed up. After that will be Ed Sloan. And a reminder that your comments should be directed to the county commission. Please state your name and Douglas County residence for the meeting minutes. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
So I'm Alan Kloss Anderson. I'm the Vice Chair of the Polsinelli Energy Practice Group. I represent Next Year Energy Resources in the West Gardner Solar Project. I also am an adjunct professor at the law school here at the University of Kansas, where I teach renewable energy practice and policy. So that's what we're working on today. And I am a resident of Douglas County at 4624 Muirfield Drive. So let's just patently be obvious about what this is about. It's about the solar project. It's about solar, and it is exactly what was referenced. It's about a disagreement on public policy in Douglas County. You have a small group within the county that is not happy about both the climate change mitigation policies, renewable energy policies. And because of that, what they said is, we don't like that policy result, so let's do something to stop it. And they're misusing and abusing the incorporation statutes to try to get to that end. There is no question from the presentation, we'll get into the demographics of this city and the factors that I'm sure your council said, that are required for you to look at. And you'll see there's nothing about this city that is a city. In fact, what they want is to create a little county within the county so they can have a fiefdom there because they don't like a couple policy decisions. There's no other question about it. This city doesn't fit any other criteria. So when we have policy discussion, there is remedies for that. It was referenced earlier. They can come before you or the other governing bodies and say, here's my, in the marketplace of ideas, here are my wares. People can either take them or not. In this case, they don't represent the majority of people on how they view these things, and they just don't like that their positions were not taken. But they have remedies of that. If they don't like it, they can run against anyone within the county commission and put people in place that more align with what they want. They don't like democracy. They don't like representative democracy. They want to do it through this mechanism that it doesn't fit. They also didn't go to do the hard work of understanding anything about operating a city. They didn't do anything to understand what the cost would be. They didn't do anything really to get to anything that would need to be done there. And saying that we heard over and over, we won't do this, we won't do that, we won't do that. That's not how a democracy works. They'll have an election in the city and they'll determine how much they will charge the citizens that live in the area. They'll determine what will be regulated, what won't be regulated. So one person sitting up there can't say that. I won't have much time to get into the demographics of the city just based on the 3 minutes, but I did present that, and we did an evaluation of all of the the comparisons for budget, from density. We're talking 23 people per square mile here. There's no one else in the city categories in the top 25 this would be the 13th largest city in the state of Kansas, just below Manhattan. And in that case, 12 of those 25 have more than 2,000 people per square mile, only 2 under 1,000. This would be a fraction of anything else because it's not a city. That's not what they're trying to incorporate. They're trying to create a little fiefdom of a county within that. And they fail in all the different public policy reasons that are in the materials we presented.
Thank you, Ed Sloan. After Ed's comments are finished, Anthony Brown is next.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing our opposition to this proposal. My name is Ed Sloan. I'm with Peafish Law Firm here in Lawrence, Kansas, 842 Louisiana. I also live in the county at 1761 East 960 Road. Okay, sorry about that. So I'll reiterate, my name is Ed Sloan. I'm with Peafish Law, where our office is located at 842 Louisiana Street. I live in the county as well at 1761 East 960 Road in Lawrence. And I've been asked to speak on behalf of a number of individuals who are opposed to this petition. Following my conversation, other topics will be covered, but I intend to cover population and population density, as well as some unintended consequences of the incorporation of a city. So other people will cover annexation issues, petitioner's statement about opting out of the city, which the commission has asked some questions about. And we also support everything that was just said by Mr. Anderson on behalf of the solar We believe that that is the sole purpose of this petition as well. But let me begin by the petitioner has conflicts in her petition. She indicates there's 415 inhabitants inside the proposed city limits. And in her materials, she says 1,221. Now, inhabitants is not defined anywhere in the Kansas statutes. And in your packet of information I presented to you, there is a statutory provision that allows you to construe things in their not normal understanding. And so inhabitants is defined by the Black Law Dictionary, says they have an intent to live at that residence. Okay, so what you need to know as a commission in my review of this statute and the things that you need to consider here is what was done to verify inhabitants, right? Because that is the threshold question on population and population density. So until you have that sorted out, it's hard to make a decision. But I would offer to you that regardless of whether it's 415 or it's 1,221, population density is way too low, okay? In your packet, I also have a map that identifies by parcels and is highlighted by color. The orange represents people who are opposed to this petition, and the purple represents those who are in favor of this petition. Okay, as you can tell by the landmass and the number of parcels represented, that there's a clear opposition here. When she talks about we and she talks about the community she's defined is limited to the petitioners. There are 118 individuals who've signed the petition in opposition. They represent 31% of all the parcels contained in this county. Her group represents approximately less than 1% of the parcels. So both in numbers of majority of petitioners opposed and petitioners in favor, we are a situation where the county commissioner should deny this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Brown is next, and after Anthony will be Mike Bennett.
First of all, thanks for having us out today. My name is Anthony Brown. I live at 799 East 2200 Road, at the very north end of this proposed county or city or whatever we're talking about tonight. First of all, I want to state for the record that I am in agreement with the people who are opposed to the petition that spoke before me. I'd also like to add the following. One, the petitioner stated that the process opting out of being in the city. If that's the case, I want out. Just going to say that right now. I don't believe that there's any such process in place. If this was allowed, you can see the map he just shared with you, the number of owners in opposition to the number of people in support of it creates a great deal of islands within that city that want to be left out of that city limit. So I think that the whole concept is undoable in this case. The Kansas legislature has also created a protection for property owners with 21 acres or more that is used for agricultural use. KSA 12-520, which is included in the handout provided by our group. The Kansas legislature recognized the importance of protecting farm ground by preventing annexation of the cities unless consented by the property owner. This is an extraordinary right that should not be trampled on by the advocates of this partition or proponent of this idea, and hopefully the folks here sitting here will help support the property owners. The petitioner should not be permitted to circumvent this statute by creating a city that majority of land mass in the proposed city is agricultural in nature. Further, the majority of property owners object to being included in the city of Clearfield in the first place. Next, the petition is forced annexation of property that by state sites the cities cannot annex under KSA 12-520. This is wrong and it defeats the intent of the statute. This petition in effect annexes agricultural property into a city that is not wanted. Finally, I love country life. Right? I don't want to be part of the city. I moved out of the city for a reason. I like to hunt. I like to have chickens. I like to have the freedom to do some of the things that's not allowed for me inside the city limits. And I really hope the county commission supports the opposition to the petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Bennett. After Mike Bennett will be, I'm going to apologize if I mispronounce your last name, John Bruglio.
Good evening, and thank you.
Mike, can you speak right into that microphone? Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can hold it up.
that's all right. I'm in it now, aren't I? Okay, can you hear? Okay, thank you. I'm Mike Bennett, 2322 North 700 Road. And I want to thank you guys for what you're doing and the staff for what you're doing, because I know it takes a lot of time. And there's other things you could be working on as well. But for the record, I agree with the opposition to the petition thus far. I was another one that was somewhat blindsided by the petition. I wasn't contacted, and I really don't think it's the right way to thwart the solar program. I think we've got that in place already. If it's appropriate to have it thwarted, you guys are that chair. And it's just the wrong approach to getting there. As far as funding the city operations, you've been over that already. It's going to take a lot of money to make this all work. And I haven't seen anything other than some suggestion that we can create sales taxes, but there's no sales tax base to start with. And there's no funding there to start with. And in the interim, who is going to fund it? I don't know. I haven't quite figured that out. But police, fire, road maintenance, planning and zoning, all of those things they just take a world of time and a world of money. A look at any small city budget will show you all of those pieces. I think it's reasonable to expect that there's going to be a normal transition to urbanization in the country out there. And I just don't think creating a city at this point is the right way to do it. As a matter of fact, I think it's just going to create an express lane to urbanization. And I'm really just totally opposed to it. And I thank you.
Thank you. After John's comments, we'll have Rebecca Potter.
You were close. Hi, my name is John Jubileo. I'm a resident in Douglas County at 2240 North 700, which is within the boundaries, and have been asked to speak on behalf of some of those that oppose the incorporation to give you some additional thoughts. I'm in agreement with everything that's been said so far that's opposing, and just wanted to add kind of a couple of things which I think you all hit on during some of your questioning. But kind of first off, when I read the petition and I look at it, it's light on detail. And I'm an engineer, and I like to see how things are going to get laid out and how functions are going to get supported. And I don't see a lot of that. I see a lot of it, talking about how services are going to get upgraded. And, those are services we already pay for within our county tax. And, when I hear you ask the questions of, okay, how are you thinking about this? Once again, light on detail, light on plans. And I know you guys as commissioners understand and appreciate the amount of time, costs, and experience that goes into setting these types of things up, right? I'm a corporate exec. I don't know how to do that. I can run a company, but I can't run a city. And so I'm not hearing anybody that's coming to you that knows how to run a city from the group that's petitioning it. So, I look, at my neighbors. Many of them have been there for generations. And I'm concerned that, the taxes, and it's not propaganda, but the taxes will go up. Many of them are retired. Many of them are farmers. They work hard. And any little bit could jeopardize their way of life, not just for them, but the next generations that are planning to, inherit that land. So, I just want to kind of add those things to it. And then lastly, I moved to our property 2 years ago from a city that started out as a farming community. And many years back, there was an idea to protect themselves. They incorporated to protect themselves from getting annexed. When we left there, we were being told when we could water our lawns, when we could fly the American flag, you know, when we could, what kind of fertilizer we could use on our ground, what kind of garage doors we could put up on our, I mean, it was just a whole, and listen, I know these folks did not start out with bad intentions, right? I probably agree with the reasons why they've decided to want to petition for incorporation. I just think it's the wrong fight, right? So thank you.
Thank you. After Rebecca's comments, we'll hear from David Crabtree.
Aha. Okay, I think that will work. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Rebecca Potter. I live at 2022 North 700 Road. I'm a retired school teacher, taught elementary for 41 years. On May 20th, 2022, I received a mailing from Douglas County Commission regarding a petition for incorporation of the city of Clearfield. Surprise! This is the first hint I had that such a process was even under consideration. It mentioned a petition signed by 50 of 400 plus residents prior to March 29th. No one had contacted me. I received no information, whether mailed, emailed, or verbal. Neither had many of my neighbors. I checked with the City of Clearfield website, but could not find it. So I called Carrie Brandon and left a message asking about it. She returned my call about 4:30 on June 7th. She said the site had just gone live. I asked why I had received no contact or information prior to the county's mailing, and why I had received no information about the petition itself or the meetings on March 30th and May 18th. Her response was that she had been too busy doing what she had done and that it wasn't possible to contact everyone. It would take too much time and effort and would cost too much to buy names, addresses, and phone numbers. This excuse did not seem reasonable because she had been able to get my name, property description, assessment, and valuation, and post that information on the proposed city limits map attached to the petition. She had, there are several inaccurate claims. For example, that nothing will change with respect to services such as fire, rescue, law enforcement, water, road maintenance. However, in my understanding, those services would have to be provided by the new city or contracted by the new city with another entity. Personally, I'm pleased with those services currently provided through Douglas County and see no reason to pay extra taxes or fees to a city for existing services to be performed by someone else or by the existing county departments plus a contracted fee. I am a retired teacher and cannot afford to pay unnecessary increase in taxes that this would entail. Another inaccuracy is that I was told by Ms. Brandon that if I didn't want to be included in the city of Clearfield, I could opt out or be disannexed from the city with no problem, that there was a procedure. I later found out from counsel that this was not true. These are only some of the inaccuracies and misinformation given by Ms. Brandon and presented at the meeting on June 12th on the website and by phone. The statement has been made in person and on the website that this petition will protect the rights of rural landowners, but won't it just add another layer of bureaucracy to deal with? Also, how does proceeding with this petition without sharing information or getting my permission to include me and my property protect my rights
Your
as a
time is
rural
up.
landowner?
Thank you for your comments. Your time
Okay.
is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, after David, we'll have Wade Kiefer.
Yes, my name is David Crabtree. I live at 557 East 2100 Road. I have property there, live there, moved there from the city, want to be in the county. I love the county. I currently take care of roads over in Clinton Township. And I know it costs $1 million plus just for equipment, not including a building to house the equipment. not including an employee to run the equipment to take care of roads. If you want to put rock or anything on your roads, it could cost anywhere from $11 a ton to $18 a ton. It takes a lot of rock to maintain roads. If this becomes a city, this is going to be a disaster. There is no money there to start with. There are no grants to just pop out money. I mean, if there was, we'd already have it over there at Clinton. So I don't think she's done any kind of research on anything like this, and I am totally opposed to this. Thank you very much.
After Wade's comments, we'll hear from Dave Moore.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Wade Kiefer, and I'm here on behalf of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and my members that live here in Douglas County. I come here today in opposition of this petition. My opposition stands on three issues: jobs, taxes, and the future of clean energy. We all know that this petition is to stop solar development. I am a fourth generation unit electrician, so I grew up in a household that had to go through the ebbs and flows of construction. And it was because of development and jobs that meant my family could provide, put food on the table, pay for my extracurricular activities, and send me to college. This passing of this petition hurts my members, if your constituents and your neighbors. Additionally, the passing of this petition would hurt my members by adversely increasing their taxes. Previously, I served on a school board and I served in a community that was mostly housing and low development. And unfortunately, when it came time to pay those teachers and give our kids more, we had to go to our public and raise our personal property taxes. But now we have development in that community, and now we do not have to do that again. And I would like that for my constituents that live in Douglas County. Lastly, the future of clean energy. The IBEW was founded in 1891 and has been a leader around the world in electrical construction and clean energy. We have been installing solar panels and wind turbines for over 40 years. And when lies about solar energy affect my brothers and sisters' livelihood, it becomes very problematic. The leadership of the Clearfield effort admits to using misinformation to try to get people angry and engaged with Douglas County government bodies in an effort to press their anti-solar agenda. What's more shameful is that the tactic is proudly and publicly endorsed by University of Kansas professor and founding member of the area anti-solar energy group, Barbara Kerr. In an NPR article on March 28th, 2022, titled "Misinformation is Stopping Renewable Energy Projects Across the United States," Barbara Kerr admitted to the known lies on their group's website when she said the information was just horrible, counterfactual, and not something we should have said on the website. However, in justifying the use of those lies, Barbara Kerr said the fighting against solar creates strange bedfellows, adding, "I don't want to alienate these people. They go to the meetings of Douglas and Johnson County." Using misinformation to generate an angry mob is extremely irresponsible and dangerous. It is also extremely short-sighted and will only serve to kill jobs and economic development. Additionally, it is offensive to anybody wishing to engage in honest discussion about how we can grow jobs and generate clean, renewable energy for the next generation. Even my brother carpenters are here because they believe in the same thing, that we need our brothers and sisters and our members and your constituents to have good jobs here in the area. We look forward to continuing an honest, open dialogue with Douglas County, and thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
After Dave, we'll hear from Joyce Whittier.
Good evening. I'm Dave Moore. I'm a retired police officer of 33 years and a proud Free State Kansan of 60. Almost 18 years ago, I bought the house at 559 East 2200 Road in the area of discussion, where my family and I have lived since. I've carefully read the petition for incorporation. I've studied the accompanying rationales and supportive data, and I've listened intently to the presenters here tonight. I have decided I am not in favor of the proposed incorporation of my property into a city for three basic reasons. First, while everyone is entitled to their beliefs, bias, and prejudices, I know burying our heads in the sand and trying to avoid the future won't solve the wider issues we all have a stake in. Plus, creating a city with the intent of stopping growth and progress is completely contrary to the intent of Kansas statute. Secondly, No thorough financial plan for the success of the city of Clearfield has been set forth, and it is simply inconceivable to me that the tax burden on my family won't increase. The levels of service provided to me by Douglas County satisfy my family's needs and maintain rural character far better than creating a straw city would do. Thirdly, if I was able to speak to the people that dreamed up this idea, I would tell them this. You didn't ask me. You didn't talk to me. We're neighbors, and you didn't approach me for help with your fears and concerns. Then you instigated a legal proceeding with this petition that directly affects my personal property and potentially my family. As happens with most human activity, your behavior speaks louder than your words. You've treated me like a faceless portion of a potential tax base and not like your living, breathing neighbor. You've left me wondering, if you treat me like this now, how do you propose to treat me when you've citified me, or when some other fear or fancy strikes you? I respectfully decline your plan for a city, and I earnestly ask the County Commission to deny the petition for incorporation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. After Joyce, we will hear, I've got both Rob and Shannon McCollum signed up together.
My name is Joyce Whittier. I live at 7414 Flint Street in Shawnee, Kansas. I urge you to approve the City of Clearfield because it preserves open spaces. But I want to commend your commission for following the state statutes regarding the agrivoltaic and that keeping open spaces. But ask yourself, what will be the effect of taking 1,000 acres of prime agricultural land out of production at a time when food prices are skyrocketing? I sent an article about food shortages that are coming to America. And unfortunately, that's true. But there's one other thing I would ask you to do. You should do some independent research on NextEra. At the April meeting of the Planning Commission of last year, Billy Wilkins made a statement that they had been doing business as NextEra Energy Resources in Johnson County for 20 years. At the time he made that statement, the application as a foreign corporation had been filed that day at 2:17 in the afternoon. They had not been doing business for 20 years. And the latest, I checked the Secretary of State's website, and they're not doing business at all in the state of Kansas right now. So, those are things that can easily be checked with a little bit of independent research. And, NextEra is just ask yourself, what kind of neighbor are they going to be? They've proven themselves in the past to be rather, well, they bully people. And is this who you want to live next to? Do you want an array of solar panels? Or do you want open spaces where people can feel free to hike, fish, whatever? What is the best use of that? And I urge you to approve the application for Clearfield. Thank you.
I think I mispronounced it earlier, sorry. Rob and Sharman, I think, McCollum. You can each speak for 3 minutes apiece if you'd like to. Oh, sorry. And after this will be John Frankie.
Robin Sharma McCollum. We live at 15215 Edgerton Road in Gardner. Our address is Gardner, but we're in the country. We obviously don't live in this area, but we are just here to stand with our friends. They just want to self-rule as a body in a more local way and just have some autonomy over their lives. Anybody that knows anything about our country's founding knows that self-governance was what was driving our founding fathers to sign their names to a document, knowing that they were condemning themselves. And they all suffered some kind of loss for that. And now we are just here with Carrie and with our friends. I would also like to say, kind of in response to what Mr. Kelly was saying about why are there not more people trying to incorporate as towns? And this would address more than that. My answer would be, why are there not more people here at most of the meetings? And I'd say this for Johnson County and for all counties across this country, and I'd like to answer that. It's partly because the citizens of this country feel they are not heard, okay? It's not necessarily just you guys, it's everywhere in government. People feel that the deck is stacked against them. In Johnson County where we live, we found out about this Next Era project only about a year ago, and the deck was stacked against us. This was going on for years in a secretive, behind doors way. And we as the citizens, after a while, you just tune it out and you just try to put your head down and just make it through the day. Those of us that work and have jobs, when do we have time to fight these things? There's a new battle every day. You guys come up with new schemes and things like that. And Carrie has worked, I don't even know how she sleeps, all that she has done in the past number of months. It's unbelievable. I would say she's a rock star for liberty, and I will stop with that. Thank you for your time. And then
As I see it, the population is expanding out in the county, and that it is an area that was and is a neighborhood. And they should get their right to self-govern. Like Sharman said, we didn't find out about this. It was all done under the carpet. It had been going on for 3 years, maybe even 4. And it just doesn't feel right when they sneak around behind closed doors and everything to do this kind of stuff. They're selling these coal-fired plants. My son works for Evergy, and they're selling these coal-fired plants to China. They're going to get coal-fired plants, and we get their produced in China solar panels. And I don't understand why we are in such a rush to become Texas with the brownouts and the blackouts. And this administration that we have in DC is so into this, and everybody wants a piece of all that printed money that they come up with. And it just seems NextEra is first in line. So anyway, that's all I have.
And one more thing, if I might add, I wish that all of these people had been here.
Sharman, your comments are over. Thank you. Thank you both for your time. Okay, John Frankie, and after John's comments, I see that Robert and Natalie Malryan are signed up and will be next.
Okay, my name is John Frankie. I live at 2222 North 600 Road, Eudora, Kansas. My wife and I own 5 acres we call Glow Farm, and an additional 100 acres adjacent to that property, which is within the proposed incorporated for Clearfield, Kansas. We are opposed to this and wish to remain rural as when we purchased the land. In 2019, we made Douglas County our home after many years of searching for the perfect farm.
that was within a county that supported protecting our environment and preserving rural character. I'm very fearful that if this proposal is allowed to proceed, we'll be faced with a loss of rural character, loss of individual land rights as landowners, and additional costs through taxation. I have had some experience in seeing what's involved in operating cities, as my father served as mayor of Merriam, Kansas, and my brother was the longest serving mayor of Cedar Hill, Texas. And believe me, it's not a simple process. And what started was founding fathers' dreams doesn't always materialize. Even if the city elders envision establishing a city with the goal of not changing anything, to me, it doesn't seem possible, and people change. New administrations come in. People want services. People want things they don't have. And all this, to me, equates to costs that have to be passed on to the landowners. This including establishing infrastructures, contracts for services, and buildings, etc., city budgets, payroll. And although I do understand the intentions, and they're very honorable, of seeking to become a city of Clearfield, I don't feel it's the right thing to do. We have cities of Eudora, Wellsville, Edgerton, Gardner, and Baldwin City within several miles. We didn't move here to be in a city, sorry. I enjoy going to a city to shop, but I so much enjoy living on our farm. Upon review of the reasons given to you in the petition for desiring a city government and services, I'm convinced we don't share the same desires. We're very pleased with the current services that we have and we receive through the county. I'm a retired individual. My wife's soon to be. I'm a beekeeper, operate a small LLC. So I'm really watching money, and I don't need to add anything to that. If there are desires to pursue an economic area such as an enterprise zone in this area to promote and encourage the many landowners and businesses in the area while still protecting the rural character, agriculture, and wildlife areas, I'll be in favor of that. But I can't support the establishment of a city at this time. Didn't mean to talk about solar, but boy, it's sure evident here. We got a lot of pro-solar people. We got a lot of landowners. And I think moving forward as a community, we need to focus on reducing or eliminating utility solar scale in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Robert and Natalie.
Hi, Robert Mulryan. I'm here with my wife Natalie. We live at 2255 North 400 Road. We are opposed to this. Personally, we do not want to be part of any city that would request incorporation before talking to everyone that they are trying to include in the city. The first we knew about this was the official notice from Douglas County. Along with that, we're tired of a small group of people trying to make decisions such as the 45-mile-an-hour zone that got put in 1061 and not thinking about the entire population. Industrial advancement is inevitable in this area. Kansas City, Lawrence, Topeka are all right in this area and expanding out. That includes with the solar and stuff. At some point, it becomes a small group of people make a decision on that. At this point, that's the Douglas County Commission. What is going to be different when it's a city commission? How are they going to decide any differently than me standing in front of you and trying to tell you what the right answer is, what I feel the right answer is? Additionally, some of the things they talked about, like sales tax and stuff, it's only going to hurt that area. Adding additional sales tax to the agricultural there. People will go other places just right down the road and find the same thing without having to pay the additional sales tax. The public works
not being not making any changes. I work for a contract company. We know that contractors cost money. They're not going to just step in and do that work for us. Additionally, when things happen that people within the city or external to the city don't agree with, here come the lawsuits. How are those going to be funded? Out of my pocket. I want you commissioners to end this tonight. That's what I would prefer. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to mention the next name. Everett Keener. Sorry if I mispronounced that. After that, we will hear from John Watson, I believe.
Hey, how's that? There we go. Excuse me, I am Everett Keener. How's that? 734 East 2000th Road with a Eudora mailbox. Been there 23 years. Coincidentally, as of today, 23 years. Retired. My wife and I have absolutely loved living there. We have a sense of community. And the community to us is Baldwin, where our kids went to school, Vinland, where the county fair is, and Eudora, where I often shop and do a few things. I feel no affinity whatsoever to Clearfield. Like many of us, I had never heard of it until the 20th of May when these little signs started appearing. A couple other people mentioned Texas. Well, this last Sunday, Texas had record heat. They burned through 75 gigawatts, a record of energy. They had no brownouts. They had no blackouts. Why? They said nearly 40% of that energy for that day was provided by solar and wind. I don't want to become Texas, no, but I think we do need to realize the future is now. We've got to move ahead. We've got to change some things. And the very idea of a very small group operating on what I would consider a basis of fear, all of their arguments seem to have to do with things that might happen, things that happen other places. So I'm really not hearing a bunch of anything other than fear. And fear translates very easy to anger and separation. And I think that they're very likely of causing more division than they are unity. Thank you. One more minute. So that said, I would like to voice my opposition to the city of Clearfield. No matter what their issues might be, this is definitely not the way to go around. And one final point, I was also not contacted by anybody this, but that's understandable. I live on 2000 Road. I'm 4 miles from the county road. As far as growth, I've had 0 additional driveways added to my side of the mile. On the other side, which is not included, there have been 2 driveways added in 23 years. So a stable rural environment, a group of county commissioners who have the majority of the population in mind. I'm very satisfied with that, and I think it would be foolish to change it. Thank you.
Thank you. After John, we'll hear from Daryl Thompson. Oh, press it one more time. If the light's green, you're good to talk.
I'm good to go. Hello, my name is John Watson. I'm a lifelong resident of Lawrence, Kansas and Douglas County. I live at 731 East 800 Road. I'm here this evening because my union representatives of the carpenters, millwrights, Kansas City informed me of this. My notion, the sole goal of this was to kill this renewable energy project in Douglas County. Killing renewable energy development project in Douglas County sends a message loud and clear to the 21st century business community. Douglas County is closed for business. Doing so would have a devastating generational impact on the ability of our area to grow good paying jobs. Carpenters right here in Douglas County are excited about the opportunities that exist for us to be able to build these new farms. These are the jobs of the future, and these are the things that we need. And I wholly hope that you do not pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. After Daryl, we'll hear from Larry Strum.
I'm Daryl Thompson. I live at 2036 North 700 Road. The petitioner tonight mentioned that there would be a reduction in services, one of those being public works. Currently, if my neighbor or my family has a medical emergency in January when we have a snowstorm, those first responders are able to get to our house or my neighbor's house. With not having public works in the city of Clearfield, how are those services going to get to my neighbor and myself? Am I going to have to jump on my tractor or help my neighbors home to jump on their tractor, clear the road so that that sheriff's office or Eudora volunteer fire department is going to be able to get to my home? Secondly, it was mentioned that there will be no law enforcement services in these 18 square miles and that the sheriff's office might respond for a significant event. I have over 25 years of law enforcement service in this local area. One of the basic things that any law enforcement training center teaches in our nation is that there are several factors to hindrance of crime. One of those being officer presence, hence why we have a sheriff's deputy here tonight to deter crime. If there is no law enforcement service in our area, where are the criminals going to go? They're going to go where they have the least chance of being apprehended. They're going to go to the least place. They're going to go to the place where they have the least chance of being found out. So they're going to go to that 18 square miles in Douglas County where there are no services. Secondly, the petitioner also mentioned that some of the landowners are absentees. And I'll add to that, that many of the landowners in this 18 square miles have full-time jobs. Thus, they're not home during the day. Again, who's going to provide those law enforcement services? Currently, on 700 Road, we see the Douglas County Sheriff's Office come by once a week. Every 2 weeks, they drive by. That presence is gone if we incorporate. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
Is Larry Strum still with us? There you go. After Larry, we'll hear from, I think it's Denny Lynn or Dan, I think it's Denny Lynn.
Yes, my name is Larry Sturm. I live at 464 East 2200 Road, inside the footprint. You know, everybody talks about taxes. Taxes are going to go up. But my thing is, I am the third generation of 4 raised on this same piece of property. I am for this incorporation. I can trace my family's heritage back to the late 1860s, arriving in the Clearfield community. I don't know. I feel this is the time. If we don't stand up now for ourselves, what we believe in, when is the time? And I really think that we truly have an opportunity to create something very unique, very different, and positive for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies for mispronouncing your last name. After this commenter, we'll hear from Rocky Cloth.
My name is Denny Lynn. I live at 2196 North 600 Road. Been there 45 years. The county has always treated us good, took care of us well. The police department They come by our house more than once a day. They're through the churchyard probably 4 or 5 times a day. Our Palmyra Township takes good care of our roads. I'm definitely opposed to being a city and having more tax. There's a lot of older folks in our neighborhood that have a hard time making it now. And that more taxes would cause them a great hardship, and they don't need it. And I think this thing has just got taken out of proportion. We don't need a city out there. The solar farm, people are fighting it. Yes, I'm for fighting the solar farm, but the city is not the answer. Not to have a city that would cause us more headaches, try to, like I have cattle, try to tell me how many cows I could have on my farm, tell people what they could do in their yard. It's been a great community to grow with, and we have a good community, but we do not need to be a city. I'm definitely opposed of it. Thank you.
Thank you. After Rocky, we'll hear from Barbara Kerr.
Commissioner and Chair Reed, esteemed Commissioners Kelly and Portillo. My name is Rocky Cloth. My address is 8955 East 38th Terrace in Kansas City, Missouri. It is my honor to represent and have a shared constituency of scores of carpenters and millwrights in Douglas County. For over 100 years, the carpenters have been involved in power generation facilities along with roads and building construction. One of the reasons why we asked the Board of County Commissioners to deny this particular petition is simply this. Currently, Douglas County is 76th out of 105 counties in Kansas for power generation, yet it is the 5th most populous county in the state. In that regard, for every 6 acres of solar, that equates to 1 megawatt. 1 megawatt equates to about 1,300 man hours for residents that would be here in Douglas County. Those taxes, everything that goes to first responders, as we've heard the discussion about that, that would be money that would stay right here in Douglas County because that's where our members live, work, and play. In that regard, we asked again that you vote no for the incorporation of the city of Clearfield. And we ask that rather than creating an area with the sole purpose of establishing excessive regulations, we implore you as the Board of Commissioners to become more energy independent for years to come while providing good paying jobs for the citizens of Douglas County. We, the 52,000 members of the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council, appreciate the opportunity to support renewable energy for and in Douglas County.
Barbara Kerr. After Barbara will be Michael Crost Sr.
I'm that dangerous professor that has been referred to. I'm pretty much a little old lady in cowboy boots, but I am that dangerous professor who spouted facts. I am a resident of the Clearfield area. I have a Eudora post office. I have a Wellsville phone exchange. I have an Baldwin School District, and Google Maps thinks that I live in Edgerton for some reason. That means that, that I don't have officially an identity as a place that lives. However, since I moved there 16 years ago, my identity has been that of a Clearfield resident. These are the people who took me in. These are the people that I've shared so much of my life with. So I wanted to go back to basics. First, a mention of the sheer power of what this little group of people is going up against. As you know, many of the people who have spoken have represented, wow, we really got NextEra upset, I guess. We must have really upset them and others who are looking forward to growing into our area. And I am very sad about our neighbors who only found out about it for the first time through the announcement. But as Carrie said, we were working as quickly as we could because we felt like forming a community of shared interest was the best way to protect ourselves from any further sorts of projects that might happen. So one of the reasons that any municipality incorporates, and in this case, much more a village than anything else, is that they are a community of shared interest. And despite the incredible diversity of values, we actually are a community of shared interests. And my neighbors who had not heard of this and whose first notion of what was going on was something that blared taxes, government regulations, need to understand that that's not what this was about, not creating more government nor creating more taxes. So why would we want to do this besides protecting ourselves from NextEra first, but then other sorts of things that might happen? We are a community of shared interests. We have a shared interest in our history, the history that goes back so very far, and that we share the love of that with our neighbors who are even opposing this. And like our neighbors who are opposing this, we love the land, we love the Oak History Forest, and we love Captain's Creek and everything about that. And
Barbara,
like
your
them,
time
we
is
are
up.
committed to
Barbara,
conservation.
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Your time is up.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
thank you very much.
Michael Cross, you still here? Okay. After Michael, we'll hear from Martin Belcher.
No, my name's Michael Cross. I live at 2168 700 Road. And my wife says I have no filter, so bear with me. I'm against a malicious attempt to obtain control of my property for personal gain. It all boils down to the subject of solar panel. Why do they need a city for their own agenda? I don't want to be annexed. Don't need. I've fought for the rights of individuals as well as all vets. I who do not want not to be bullied by a group of activists who not let the 40 people only live in a so-called city. Leave the rest alone. Rest, I will fight to stay where I am. We have built schools and services in Eudora, and I'm not going to let people want me to give that up. We have built my family, my wife and I are retired, so we do not care to give our money away. 4 days ago, I got this pamphlet about Clearfield. It's the first I've seen it. Thank you.
Thank you. After Martin, we'll hear from Justin Kelly.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Martin Belcher. I live at 400 and 2300 Road. I am opposed to this. I'm opposed to the solar, but times do change. And I would like to know how many people drove an electric vehicle tonight. Okay, after that. Another thing I'd like to know, there's supposed to be a liability insurance policy. What is the policy limits on that? How much is that going to cost the taxpayer? excuse me, I can't even read my own writing. I actually, like I said, I'm against the solar, but times change. I'm curious and wonder if this is just a last ditch effort to stop the solar wind farm or the solar panel farm. And regarding opting out of something, why in the hell would anybody want to, or why are we required to opt out of a phone service deal? Somebody that wants to call you constantly to provide a service, why should I have to opt out? Ask me if I want to opt in, not out. People of a city expect more police, county patrol. That's going to cost more money. I've talked to some of our county people, and thanks. I really believe that there's going to be an extended cost to the proposed city residents. Okay, who's going to coordinate all this stuff with Johnson County? Because they're involved in the same thing. I think my time's up. I do have a few more questions that I'd like answered, but anyway, thank you. I appreciate all you guys' time, whatever you do. I would really prefer that you vote on this tonight and get it over with. Thank you.
Thank you. After Justin, we'll hear from Ed Moore.
My name is Justin Kelly. My brothers and I own 160 acres located at the southeast quarter of 91421. I'm also part of a family trust that owns an additional 380 acres subject to this petition. I'm here to speak in opposition to the incorporation of Clearfield. My family invested in the land to operate it and enjoy it as rural ground, which includes farming, outdoor recreation, a wetlands project, and ground enrolled in the Conservation Reserve Program, which is a native grass program designed to provide wildlife and pollinator habitat and assist in clean water. This program requires strict management practices, including controlled burning, which would no doubt face uncertainty and be threatened by a city's laws and regulations. Overall, though I respect the intent of this petition, I believe this petition poses too many uncertainties for the way we use our ground now and in the future. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. After Ed, we'll hear from Shanta Kim.
My name's Ed Moore. Our family farms at 2065 North 700 Road. The family and I are very opposed to being in the city. We didn't buy the farm out there. We don't run the farm, want to be in the city. We're very opposed to it. I'm very opposed to thinking I'm going to pass it along to my kids being in the city when we belong in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Shanta Kim here? Okay, we're gonna go on to the next person, Kimberly Wright. All right, after Kimberly speaks, we'll hear from Bennett Seaman.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Wright, and my husband Jason and I are building a home at 622 East 2200th Road. We own approximately 30 acres in the heart of the proposed Clearfield city boundary. If you look at that map, the arrow, we're at the point of the arrow. We're right in the middle of this. We sold our home in Lawrence in the summer of 2020 and bought our rural property in the county later that year. We spent the last year and a half planning carefully, building our home, working with our builder, clearing the property for our future dream home. The foundation will be poured as soon as the weather cooperates, hopefully in the next day or two. We were so happy that we finally found our dream property with the added bonus of living next to some amazing neighbors, two of which spoke tonight. We did not sell our house on the Jayhawk Club golf course in the heart of the city of Lawrence just to move to the heart of another city. We wanted out of this city to have room to grow our dream building, our hobby farm, and just to be out in the country. We've already planted over 200 trees and have plans to plant thousands of other additional trees. We don't need a city to make those dreams happen. In fact, a city would limit our ability to do that with additional and unnecessary regulations and added expenses of city taxes. Even $65 is a lot when you're a public school teacher. We don't need more government oversight or taxes to preserve and protect our quality of life. We were devastated to learn a week ago that there was a proposal to incorporate Clearfield. We didn't hear about it. I'm assuming it's because we don't actually live there yet, but our neighbors did tell us about it, and that's why we wanted to come tonight. The greatest fear that I have is that the city will take our property through eminent domain. As I said earlier, we are in the heart of the proposed city, and I've driven around the proposed city limits, and our property would be right in the heart of it. We are surrounding the little cemeteries right across from the church. They would be the ideal location for future city buildings that would be built in the time when the time comes to enter into municipality operations. My grandparents on both sides of my family lost their homes and businesses over 50 years ago for the sake of the good of the community as a whole. They were offered far less than their value, and they did not have a choice in selling their properties to the government. I don't want this to happen to Jason and I or any of our neighbors. I'd also like to say thank you for your service. I know you guys have a lot of decisions to make, and they're difficult decisions, and there's a lot to weigh. So I appreciate the way in which you've addressed this tonight. Patrick Kelly is an awesome administrator.
Thank you. Travis Hardy is who is next. Press that button. There you go.
Hi, I'm Bennett Seaman. I live at 2345 North 600th Road. My city is Edgerton, but I'm a Douglas County resident. I don't know if the city is the best solution. We decided to try because it seems like the only solution to keep the reason that we all moved to the country, which was to get away from city life, to have peaceful evenings where you can just hear bugs and birds and animals and no traffic, none of that other stuff. I happen to be, unfortunately, one of the people that would be surrounded on 3 sides by NextEra. If they go through with this plan, 3 sides of our property would have nothing but solar panels buzzing all of the time with lights and everything else. And it's more of an issue of taxation without representation for me, because the problem with living out in the country is that even my state representatives, everyone has a much larger voice from their city constituents than they do the rural areas. We are always outnumbered in everything we do. I don't have a representative that represents the things that are important to our way of life. And so that's why we tried to do this. We don't want to build a city like the traditional city, the modern city that you guys are all thinking of. We want to build a city that preserves the rural aspect of living out in the country. We don't want more rules. We don't want people telling us what to do with our land. That is not the purpose of us becoming a city. It's because we want to take all those shared ideas, irregardless of how we feel about the solar. There are aspects that we all agree upon in regards to being a rural community, and we want to build a rural city. And so that was our plan. Certainly did not intend to offend anybody. And we just did what we thought was the right process. So I hope that you will at least give us a chance to hear us through and let us try to figure out if it's a workable solution. If not, I would love to hear ideas on how we in the rural area can get better representation.
Thank you, Travis Hardy. After Travis, we'll hear from Cindy Fitzgerald.
Travis Hardy, 421 East 2400th Road. And like most of these people here, you know, I'm in the country because I want to be in the country. But on those same lines, I spent months dealing with this solar stuff going on. And so I'm left with, do I try to go with the city? And so I got some, chance to try to stop this from coming in next to me. Or do I say, the heck, that's okay. Forget the city, I'm okay with solar and I'm okay with it being all around. For me, that's the two things I have to weigh. I mean, that's where I'm at. And, I know a lot of people, probably don't even know me because, a lot of these people, I haven't seen before, but I can tell you, I know you don't want to live in the city. I don't want to live in the city. That's why I live in the country, but I don't want to live next to solar either. And so, if all you folks really, are okay with solar, and that's cool, but I'm not. And that's why, this city is kind of like my only opportunity left to try to step in and say, well, I can at least try to have a little more control of what's going on right around me. Like some of these folks have said, being in the county, sometimes our values don't necessarily always line up with the city, right? And if we could create our own environment, our own group, then we would be representative. And, I definitely think regardless of the city goes through or not, creating a mechanism for the folks in the county to have better representation, just, there's like on the planning commission, there's really not a lot of folks that live in the county that are even on it. And just trying to get a better mix of people from the county and the city, so we are representative. And for me, that's where I'm at with this. And, balancing these two things, I am for the city because it gives me a chance to try to protect myself. And honestly, seeing some of what's went on, not necessarily in Douglas County, but in other counties, I can tell you, you got to protect yourself because you cannot always rely on the government to do the right thing. And this is my best chance to try to do that and protect myself. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Cindy Fitzgerald. I live at 254 East 2300 Road in Edgerton, Kansas, Douglas County. I think Wellsville Schools, but anyway, and we do have cattle and race performance horses. First, I'd like to say to all the neighbors out there, I am sorry you guys weren't contacted. It was wrong of us, but there was very few of us that were trying to do something to protect our area. I don't want to pay more taxes. And speaking of taxes, my taxes went up $1,000. And I've lived out there for 20 years and there has been no improvements. Our road, 2300 road, is a death trap. Y'all that drive up down that know that. The death sometimes so bad you get killed. You don't know if you can pull out. It's terrible. It washed out over this rain. We can't get rural water. I have tried calling both of them and it's crickets. So we need help from the county. We're the last road and I think no one pays attention to us. But and so when we moved there were 6 houses. There's 18 from 56 highway to 300. So the whole spirit of what we did was to try to protect our area because I travel a lot. That's what I do for a living, and what's coming to our area is terrifying. I've done a deep dive on Nextera. They're not a real ethical company. They're not a green company classified under United States or Europe or the world. They just got fined 27 million for killing, I don't know how hundreds of bald eagles, just wrote them a check. That's pocket change to them. Our whole intention, the whole spirit of this was to protect our area because folks, it is going to change. I don't want to pay, but like, again, I already am paying more taxes. I don't know what for. So it was to protect our area because our area is going to turn into 6,000 acres of solar panels, which if you're on a well like I am and have kids and grandkids, that aquifer is going to get polluted. If you don't think it is, you're kidding yourself. Also, we're going to have transmission lines. Right now, Nextera is in the process of getting approved by the Kansas Commission as a power company. Once they do, they are entitled to have eminent domain. So you all understand what eminent domains, that's what we have coming. So I apologize, we are wrong. There's very few of us. I don't want to do this. I work a full-time job. A lot of times I have to travel all over this flipping country. I have minimum of 3 hours of chores a day. You farmers understand that. And then I still have to ride these performance horses. So yeah, to go do city council and stuff, it wasn't something that I envisioned, but if I had to do it to protect my home, the only home I've ever had that long, I would do it. But I apologize again, and you guys have very, very valid points. And I'm sorry there wasn't more of us to contact you. And you're right, you should have been contacted. Somebody should have sat at the kitchen table with you and said, here's our choices. Maybe we can become a city and stop. And also I want you guys to know in the Planning Commission, Douglas County, the Planning and Zoning Commission's one, there is one person that represents the county, us. One out of all those members, so they don't have our interest at heart. So moving forward, no matter what happens, somebody
Cindy,
has to get on that plan.
Cindy, your time is up.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Do something about our road.
Okay, I have gotten through all the folks that signed up. I'm going to do one last quick call. If there's anybody here in the building that did not provide public comment yet, but wants to, please raise your hand and come forward. Please remember to state your name and residence for the record. Thank you.
Jason Wright, 622 East 2200, and we'll keep it real short. Will you guys please vote on this tonight? Kill it, stop it.
One last call. Anybody here that hasn't provided public comment yet? Okay, with that, I'm certain that we have some folks online. I'm gonna check in with commissioners. It is 8:17. We talked about taking a break at 8:30. Is it just one person?
I think we should make sure that folks online, if they want to provide public comment, they need to raise their hand, but we do have two now. So if we have a few, we've got two
Okay.
right now.
Well, let's go ahead and go forward with those two. We'll stop at 8:30 if we still have more folks and take a break then.
While we're moving you into the panel, just for anyone else online, if you're interested in making public comment, please raise your hand in Zoom and we will call on you. Climate Energy, you're ready to speak.
Thank you very much for giving me a few minutes to address you today. My name is Dorothy Barnett, and I'm the Executive Director of the Climate and Energy Project. We're a Kansas-based nonprofit whose mission is to build resilience in Kansas through equitable clean energy and climate action. We were started right there in Lawrence 15 years ago. The last time I presented comments to you, I referenced the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's 6th assessment, which said that we're seeing adverse impacts that are much more widespread and negative than expected. It's clear with your climate action plan and the solar regulations that you passed that you take the need for climate action very seriously. Although the solar regulations you passed are stringent, they will allow Douglas County to be part of the climate solution we need as we face the climate crisis. So I just want to say thank you for your important work. I know that has been difficult. The Clearfield effort is for one purpose, which I think we've heard loud and clear tonight, taking away a solar project and taking away the ability of landowners to use their land for renewable energy. Tonight, you heard Carrie Brandon say they had lots of reasons for getting their petition to incorporate. However, the petition was filed when it became apparent that the Planning and Zoning Commission was going to put forward solar regulations that would allow utility scale solar to be a climate solution. In addition, if those in support of this petition try to deny that that's the single reason, we should remember that they admit to lying to get what they want, as noted by the earlier speaker from IBEW in the March NPR article. Carrie Brandon also noted in her opening comments that an employee of solar installer Good Energy Solutions supports this incorporation. And I just want to remind you that you all heard from Malcolm Proudfit, who is the CEO of Good Energy Solution, at both the planning and zoning level and the commission level, that he does not support regulations that would make it impossible for solar growth. Additionally, after the Johnson County Board of County Commissioners voted last week to accept regulations that would allow for utility scale solar growth, a group of anti-solar folks, many of whom were signed on to the petition for this incorporation, said, okay, don't worry about it. We still have the Clearfield petition to try to kill and stop this solar development. So the incorporation is designed to stop the development, and I implore you to not let that happen. It's an important climate solution, and we should be supporting more solar, not making it more difficult. Thank you for your time.
Jeff, we're moving you into the panel. Jeff, you need to accept the request to move into the panel if you want to provide public comment. Jeff, one last shot to get you moved over. We're gonna try one. Oh, all right, Jeff. You're in the panel. You can unmute yourself and provide your public comment. Jeff, you need to unmute yourself. There, you need to unmute yourself to provide public comment. I got him in, but
Okay, we can move on to another person. Nobody else?
we'll try one. Yeah, it's not working.
Okay.
And we don't have anyone else whose hands are raised for public comment.
Okay.
Oh, all right, Jeff.
Give Jeff one more chance.
Jeff, can you unmute yourself? There you go, Jeff. It appears you're unmuted. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to make your public comment. I don't think we've got Jeff in there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do we see any other virtual hands raised at this time?
Do not have any other hands raised at this time.
Okay. Well, with that, we will go ahead and close public comment for this item and take our break a little bit early. It is 8:23. Does a 5-minute break feel sufficient? Okay, we will adjourn at 5:20 or 8:28. We're way past. If you can hear me, oh, there I am. Sorry, I got my mic hot again. Thank you. All right, everybody, we are at 8:30 p.m. Couple minutes past when we intended to come back. Thank you all for the break. Hope you got to stretch your legs. And since we have closed public comment, we will just go ahead and have discussion amongst commissioners. Especially as the District 2 representative, looking at a room full of folks and an inbox and a voicemail box full of contact from folks in my district over the past several days and couple of weeks. I just want to really thank you all for taking the time and energy to engage in this public process. It is a really important thing for us. In my opinion, it's the most important thing for us to consider the voices and concerns of the people who are most directly affected by this proposal. So I just want to acknowledge that you all have been here with us for many, many hours. Some of you were here extra early and sat through our study session that began at 4 o'clock and waited for this. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the travel. And I really appreciate everybody engaging with meaningful and thoughtful comments and letting us know, your elected representatives, how you feel about this possibility and what you hope for us to do in response to it. I think we heard a lot tonight. We heard a lot of themes, I think. And for me, what really sticks out, there are a couple of things, but I think what sticks out the most is that this is a pretty large community, that even the folks that are here, the area that we are discussing encompasses a large community, arguably many different communities, people who have made community amongst themselves in small neighborhood groups. So we've heard comments tonight about folks who identify as being a part of the Eudora or Baldwin or Vinland or Palmyra or Wellsville communities. And we heard a lot about folks who live where they live and how they live on purpose. And I think that that matters for me, that we heard that theme repeatedly, that people appreciate the rural lifestyle that they have right now, the land use that they are capable of right now, and the services that they receive from the many Douglas County departments and rural water district and township departments that we heard mentioned throughout many folks' comments tonight. And I can appreciate that the idea and intent of this petition for incorporation was one that was born out of, and it's been pointed out by many folks who commented in opposition, born out of some good intent and some creative idea sharing around how to confront an issue that they felt strongly about. I can appreciate and respect the creativity in that. However, it is evident to me that it is a very singular focused intention with some ideological ideas that perhaps resonate with a number of other folks, but that does not account for the very necessary and specific tangible services, regulations, taxation, all of the things that have been commented on this evening that commissioners touched on in their questions with the petitioner at the beginning of this. And I think that overall, there are a lot of unanswered questions about what a city would look like and how would it function if it were to be incorporated. And for me, the number of those unanswered questions with not much tangible detail or sufficient answers, in my opinion, at this point, about how to create, manage, and run a city that truly represents the folks that would reside there and that serves them on a level that they expect and desire. I personally don't believe that we have heard much of any evidence that suggests that that is possible, given the current state of the petition and what's been presented to us this evening. And it matters a lot to me that the volume of opposition, which I don't even know necessarily represents everybody, but the volume of opposition that we've heard tonight, and that at least I myself have heard over the past couple of weeks in individual conversations with many of you, is overwhelming. And for me, that makes me feel that this is not well supported by the community, by the area of Douglas County that it most directly impacts. And that is a really important factor for me. And I'm not inclined to support incorporation based on the overwhelming opposition, in addition to those unanswered questions and specifications about the city itself and services, taxation, government structure, etc. Other commissioners have thoughts they'd like to share?
This is Commissioner Portillo. I really appreciate those thoughts, Commissioner Reed. And I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Reed said. I have really appreciated the amount of public engagement and public input on this topic, from the initial conversations about what would it look like to design a city. As someone who's currently teaching future city managers, I wanted to design my entire summer course around this conversation. That unfortunately wasn't quite possible because I have to teach them a lot of other things as well. But I know that many of them are watching this on Zoom, and we'll see it on YouTube as well, to talk about what does it look like to really have citizens talk through what a city is and what a city means and what does it mean to be engaged at the local level. And so I appreciate all of the engagement that we've had from folks talking about this as a possibility, and from the broader community coming out and voicing their opposition to this, because it would be a significant change. And I think that that's incredibly important. We have different forms of government for different purposes. And one of the first things that we're asked to consider in the statute that lays out how we incorporate a city is the density of that population and community. And that's because cities are designed to provide services and resources and infrastructure to a group of folks who are living in close proximity. And so for me, one of the first things that this petition fails to do is demonstrate that there are enough people living in close proximity to each other to really move forward with providing the kinds of services that a city is designed to provide when it comes to infrastructure and public works. And as Commissioner Reed pointed out, we didn't hear a really thought through or articulated plan of what does it mean to run a city. And I was appreciative to hear from the city of Eudora, who did mention that they have plans as a city. They have their urban growth area that does come into where the city of Clearfield boundaries come to. The city of Eudora has a lot of plans with how they want to continue to run that city and what they have been doing for years. When we talk about what it means to live in rural Douglas County, our 2040 plan does a lot to say what we're trying to do is to maintain agriculture and rural ways of life in the unincorporated areas of Douglas County. In the state of Kansas, if we want rural living, a lot of that means living in unincorporated county areas. I do know what it means to see a commission make a decision that I disagree with. On Kansas Day, just a few years ago, Commissioner Reed and I were on that side of the courthouse disagreeing with what was happening here. And so I think that a big part of what this means is that we need to have that citizen engagement and make sure that we have voices engaging all the time. And we have ways to do that. We have elected representatives who get elected to make these decisions. I'm not inclined to support creating a whole new government structure to move in a different direction. So I agree with Commissioner Reed.
So first, I think it's important to go over that no solar project is before us at this time. I think there have been solar regulations that have been passed, but we do not have an active solar project in front of this commission at this time. Process is really important. We had a process, a thorough process in developing those solar regulations that both sides in their discussion with the commission and with the planning commission shared was thorough, was extensive. Our ad hoc committee went out to communities, talked to people, heard that. This process has been extensive. Some of you may not have heard about it, but the fact that we have 14 steps, all these things are in place. We heard all the public comment. You got mailed notices. There was signage. That is on purpose as a way of making sure that all voices are heard. All voices, I believe, were heard in the solar regulations, and I believe that tonight we had a really good opportunity to hear from people affected by this. The process is there. Sometimes it's disappointing when the process works, but we don't get what we would hope out of the process. I feel like this proposal came out of a frustration from that, and I appreciate that. I too get frustrated when sometimes things don't go my way or the way that I think it should go. That's part of the reason I ran for office, was that there was things that I valued that I wanted to see come to fruition in Douglas County. That doesn't mean that we create a new city to do that, because there are repercussions of cities. By the petitioner's own admission, many of the reasons to create a city are exactly what the petitioner does not want for this city. So a higher level of growth, more protection, more services based on that density. It was clear to me, and I understand all the hard work that goes into understanding this. I thought it's a bit unfortunate that in order for us to understand some of the depths of legislation, we have to hire counsel. But I think it would have been good for the petitioner to hire counsel to really understand the repercussions that are in the statute. Because in the question that I asked around planning and zoning, a real value expressed, I did not feel like the petitioner really understood what that was going to take and where the end of Douglas County services would happen and where the start of city services are. So I want to take a time to recognize how hard it is sometimes when we go through a process and we feel we weren't heard. Everyone tonight was heard. At some point, as elected officials, what we do is take the different values that are expressed and make a decision based on those values. And I don't know that we've made many decisions ever that everyone agreed with. But I don't think the city, creating the city of Clearfield is the right way to move forward when you're concerned about that. That'll take me back to, we have no solar project in front of us right now. So there are more opportunities to stay engaged. I appreciate those folks who commented and said, I'm against solar development and I'm against the city of Clearfield. And I would ask you to stay open-minded and say, I'm maybe against this project, because you're going to need to see the specifics, as will we or any future commissioner need to see the specifics for a specific solar project to see if it works. Just because we have regulations doesn't mean we have a large-scale industrial solar project here in Douglas County. We'll have to take each project as it comes. So I just want to give some context, because this seems to be about solar. It doesn't seem to be about a large group of people who have gathered together at a high enough density and need to provide specific services for that. That's really the threshold for me. When we look at the factors that we have to consider, we don't see the density for the size of the city. We don't see the advent of services necessary to approve the petition for the city of Clearfield.
This is Commissioner Reed again. I appreciate both your comments, and I just want to add that, first, I just want to reiterate again how truly incredible I think that this level of public engagement is. If you watch many of our meetings, well, maybe you can't see the gallery. If you come to many of our meetings, you might be one of the only people in the gallery. And so it's personally exciting for me to see when this many folks engage with a process and want to make their voice heard. and talk to their representative government about what they do and don't want. So I just really respect all of the time and energy that folks have taken to show up here. And I also want to say that my hope moving forward from this experience, and to Commissioner Kelly's point about the fact that we have no solar applications, any such conditional use permit applications in front of us. We don't know when they will come and we don't know what they will look like until we receive them and they go through the planning commission process and eventually come to us. We expect significant public engagement and at each of those application times. We had significant public engagement in the development of the regulations, and it made such a huge difference, very significant difference. The questions and concerns raised by folks like you and other people elsewhere in the county helped staff and planning commissioners dig in deeper and address those concerns and research and better understand what was a good balance of some of those competing values and what the responsible thing for our county to do was. And I believe that our planning commission and the ad hoc committee in particular did a great job of that. And it has set a foundation for those applications. When those applications come, we need more public engagement. We can't lose the engagement of our residents and what the impact of those projects will be, what they feel about them, what they worry about them. And we need to hear that. And so I hope all of you will stay engaged. I also hope that rather than the maybe apparent division that seems to be in this room tonight or that has been created by this process, that all of you can appreciate that now you've met more of your neighbors. You know some more folks than you maybe did before in the past couple of days or past couple of weeks. Maybe you've reconnected with or gotten closer to some neighbors that you knew but hadn't talked to in a while. And for me, those are important parts of the process. And I think it's an opportunity for conversations to continue amongst y'all and talk, I heard a lot of common ground this evening. And so I think sometimes it's really easy to focus on what divides us and what we disagree with each other about. But I heard a significant amount of agreement and common ground about what so many of you value in your daily life and about living in this community and living the way that you do. So I hope that that sticks with you and that there are more and better and stronger connections to be made amongst you all as a larger community in unincorporated Douglas County, and that all of you stay engaged regardless of your opinions today and how they may or may not change in the future, that you can stay engaged with those future processes around solar in particular, since that was such a theme of tonight's conversation and discourse, and obviously at the center of this issue. Then I expect to hear from and see more of you in the future. So I want to thank you all again for being here. With that, I want to move to deny the incorporation of the city of Clearfield. John, did you have something you want to add?
Commissioner Reed, John Bullock County Councilor, I'd like to provide a recommendation concerning the form of the motion, if I may. And before I do that, I just wanted to provide a final sort of wrap up, if you will, that in my sitting through the public testimony, the presentations that were made and listening to the discussion of the commission, it's my impression that each of you has considered each of the factors set forth in the statute, including the population and population density of the area, the land area, topography and boundaries, the extent of business, commercial and industrial development, past expansion, the likelihood of significant growth in the area and in adjacent areas, the cost and adequacy of governmental services, and the effect of the proposed action on adjacent areas. In addition, particularly with respect to Eudora and with other local municipalities within 5 miles of the proposed city, you've taken into account the size and general population of those cities, their growth patterns, the extension of boundaries and so forth, as well as the general effect upon the entire community, and all of these and other considerations having to do with the overall orderly and economic development of the area, and to present an unreasonable multiplicity of independent municipal governments. And I summarize those factors just to ask the commission to affirm that indeed you did consider those factors. And as I say, as sitting here as a neutral observer, I did hear evidence presented on those factors. And with that, Commissioner Reed, if you're inclined to move to deny the petition, what I would recommend is the language that you would use would be that you would move that Douglas County resolve and order that the incorporation of the city of Clearfield should be denied. The petition for incorporation of the city of Clearfield should be denied.
Thank you for that, John. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and withdraw my previous motion. Double check with commissioners if there are any further thoughts or questions what that raises. Okay, thank you for listing that out. I appreciate that. And I'll go ahead and make a new motion for Douglas County to resolve and order that we deny the petition for incorporation of the city of Clearfield based on the evidence that we heard this evening and the factors that were just summarized by council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time. We have a couple more things for the end of our meeting. You're welcome to stay with us. You're welcome to leave. Please drive safe. Okay. Okay. If everybody could go ahead and please make their way out of the room so that we can continue on with our meeting. You don't have to leave the whole building, but please leave the room if you're not staying. Okay. The next. Thank you for being here. The next thing on our agenda is appointments. And I've got a quick list of some appointments that are ready for us. Thank you, fellow commissioners, for a little bit of time on the HCC appointments. I know that there are 3 folks whose appointment expired just a couple weeks ago, but are all eligible for renewing their spot on the Heritage Conservation Council. And with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion for them to go ahead and, well, let me ask Sarah, is it okay to make a motion for all 3 of them? Okay.
Just as long as you list them individually.
Sure, thanks for the reminder. I will move to appoint Amy Van Der Wright, Nick Pumphrey and Jenny Trucano Miller to the Heritage Conservation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're fine.
Okay, and I also saw that we have a Board of Code Appeals appointment for Branner Gordon, who I believe is a new appointee. So I'll go ahead and move to appoint Branner Gordon to the Board of Code Appeals. Is that right, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then one more we just got today about that for the Housing Authority Board. We have a Eudora resident who's interested in serving, Lindsay Hoover. Go ahead and move to appoint Lindsay Hoover to the Housing Authority Board.
I know Lindsay, she served in, she was on leadership Douglas County, so I'm glad to second that motion.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you. Any other appointments to discuss, Sarah?
I think that's it, commissioners.
Okay. Any other appointments from commissioners or updates?
I think do we want to get to noticing things yet, or do you want to wait on that? We have Juneteenth on the
We-
20th. Yeah.
I will make sure that we just notice the Juneteenth celebration on
Yes,
Sunday.
Saturday. Saturday is the parade and
Okay.
the event in South Park.
Okay.
I may also be attending some of the events on Sunday, but I believe we'll all be at the Saturday parade.
We'll just go ahead and list that.
Okay. Any other upcoming events in the next week that we should notify
I mean,
public
it's
about?
not in the next week, but we're all gonna be at the Douglas County Fair to judge some pies, so we probably need to put
Looking
that
forward
on
to
there.
that, yeah.
We'll
Yes.
make sure we.
We put it
the
on our
schedule.
calendar today.
Yes.
Make sure the public knows about this.
I'm excited
Old
that it's on the
tradition.
calendar.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, with that, we'll go on to the memo from Sarah and any other miscellaneous items you want to tell us about.
Commissioners, the only thing I wanted to call your attention to was the, we're getting ready for the second reentry simulation exercise. Is that on there? And so that's on our calendar. And then also the PowerPoint that emergency management shared at the end of Unified Command. I just thought there was some really valuable information, so I included that in your packet. And that's all I have, commissioners.
Thank you, Sarah. Any miscellaneous items from you, Commissioner Kelly?
So we do have an MPO policy board meeting tomorrow that I cannot attend. The bylaws do allow us to send a member of the elected body. It's at 3 o'clock. If either of you are available. If you're not, I can tell them no. We can also have staff attend as well. So just wanted to check in with commissioners to see if either were available.
For Thursday,
Yeah,
I am not available.
okay. We'll just let them know.
Thank you. How about you, Commissioner Portillo?
I just wanted to say that we had a really great CJCC meeting yesterday. We welcomed a new community member, Doris, for the first, I was going to say in person, but it was a Zoom meeting and it was a great conversation. I really appreciate the questions that she brought forward to the CJCC. We had a fantastic presentation from Matt Cravens. And so big shout out to Matt for the way that he is making sure that we are understanding the data that is in our community and putting it forward in a really transparent and accessible way for our community. I'm deeply appreciative of that. We have a lot of work to do in our community. And I think a big piece of that is really making sure that we're creating equitable access to alternative to jail programs for our community. So we've invested a lot as a community, both in financial resources, time resources, and energy to make sure that we have alternatives to jail as an enhanced diversion, our drug court, our behavioral health court. We need to make sure that those are accessible to all of our citizens and that we're not using them in discriminatory ways. And so I'm excited that we have the data to help us move, at least start having the conversation about how do we have a better referral process and a better kind of acceptance process for that. So it was great to have the community start engaging in that on Tuesday, but we're going to take off for July. So we'll be back in August with a final report from Northeastern University on the police stop study.
Great, thank you both. I don't have anything to add, so we are
I have
adjourned. Oh,
one more.
okay,
item.
go ahead.
Sorry,
Not
I just
adjourned.
wanted to let commissioners know I attended the lynching remembrance on Saturday and just want to thank Carrie Altenbeard and Ursula Minor and the NAACP for all their work on that. If you have a chance to go by and see the placard, it's hard to see and it's hard to read that information, but I think it's a really important step in recognizing what happened here and trying our best to move forward and learn from that. So I know that was something that was presented to the Douglas County Commission and it was a really nice ceremony. I'll say that. I'm not sure ceremony is the right word, but remembrance, it was really well done.
I'm glad you were able to be there. I tried to log in and watch it online, but the audio was not okay. Thank you for that. All right, everybody, we are adjourned. Have a good rest of your night.